thundering two-hand send down over James. Nice pirouette maneuver on the pivot. Feeds SGA straight away. Pawed at by Hachimura. Isolated. Dances, crosses over, steps back, fires. Angle left three-pointers on the way. Got it! Cha-ching, a Thunder money ball. The reigning MVP is here. He's got 33 and 5 in a row. Thunder by 4. Loose ball tipped no good by Reeves, and it's over in L.A. 115-110, the final in game 4. The reigning champion Thunder become the first team in 8 seasons to advance out of the Western Conference semifinals to the conference finals as they complete sweeps of Phoenix in round 1, the Lakers in round 2.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Dewing starts now.
Boy, on a night when they didn't have their best stuff, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't have his best stuff, Oklahoma City still had the resourcefulness to get the win and get the sweep, knock the Lakers out of the playoffs, and move on now to the Western Conference Finals, where they'll await the winner of this thrilling series between the Timberwolves and the Spurs. And, of course, the big question now for L.A., what do you do with LeBron James? The goal, obviously, is to build your roster around Luka Doncic and make sure that he's got the right people around him to have an opportunity to compete for a championship. It's hard to imagine that they can get that done if they bring LeBron back. So we'll hear from J.J. Redick on the future of the Lakers and what they need to do after the Thunder just dropped the hammer on them. And the good thing is, just like with the Blazers getting whacked by the Spurs in round number 1, the Lakers getting hammered by Oklahoma City in round number 2, you know, when you play a great team, they really make it clear on who you are and where you fit in the pecking order in your conference. I think the Blazers came out of that series against San Antonio understanding that, hey, we have some good pieces, but we're a long ways away from where we need to be to compete for a championship. And the Lakers, too. They had a good year, but they don't stack up to Oklahoma City or the top teams in the Western Conference. And the reality is in the West, it's not just San Antonio and Oklahoma City. There are multiple teams with versatile rosters who can compete at a high level. And so you've got to take a look around and understand who you are and what you need to do to get to where you want to be. It's tough. The competition in the Western Conference is tough. That game tonight's going to be awesome. 5 o'clock, NBC and Peacock. Spurs and Timberwolves. It's really turned out to be a highly competitive series. The Minnesota Timberwolves do not back down to anyone. They're tough. They're gritty. They defend. Their coach is superb. And they've been game in this series against San Antonio. And they've also shown great toughness. You know, with the injury to Anthony Edwards, he's come back and been able to play since game 1, which is amazing to me. Naz Reid showed toughness, getting blasted in the face by a Wemby elbow in game 4. Turned his ankle, left the game, came back, and finished strong. And they've had a number of young guys step up to make plays when they've needed it the most. So I give them a lot of credit for their work and their effort. And for San Antonio, I just continue to be impressed. Young roster for the most part. They've obviously got a superstar in Victor Wembanyama, but they play really well together. Even when Wemby got ejected from the game in game number 4, the Spurs put themselves in a position to win the game. Unfortunately, they had no answer for Ant. And I believe, and this is a great stat, but for Chris Finch, that game number 4, when Wemby got tossed, I think it was the highest amount of drives to the basket that they've had in his tenure as coach. So Minnesota was quite clear on what needed to be done when Wemby got ejected. We're going to attack the paint, we're going to go at the rim, and we're going to take advantage of the fact that we don't have an 8-footer trying to block every shot when we go in there. So very smart to recognize the opportunity and cash in. And Anthony Edwards even mentioned that after the game that, hey, we had to take advantage of the opportunity. San Antonio's still good without Wemby, but they're not the same team without him, obviously. Because of his presence, the way he can block shots, the way he changes shots, he's a problem for Julius Randle and anyone else that wants to enter the paint, obviously. So game tonight should be awesome. Highly contested. And now just like, and this is what I love about the NBA playoffs. NFL, you get one game. But in the NBA playoffs, it really is like a soap opera where you have action game to game. The teams and the players start to get familiar with one another. You get some drama. You get some bitterness. You get tempers at Flair, and everything just ratchets up every single game as you move forward. So the Timberwolves are not going to forget that elbow that was thrown, and it was dirty. So it should be very interesting to see how the game plays out tonight. Now, coming up on the show, I've got two guests today, and Alex Brink, former Coug, and with E4 Sports is going to join. The main reason why I want to talk to him is he texted me last week. He just had his first hole-in-one, and he was pretty excited about it. He's been playing golf for a long time, so we'll talk to him about that. I also want to get his take on some of the players coming out of the draft and what he's looking for as they move on into their NFL careers. So Alex Brink, hole-in-one club he belongs to now. We'll talk to him coming up at 3:20. And then at 5:20, Dave Deckhard of BlazersEdge.com. I want to get his take on what we're seeing right now in the NBA playoffs, and we'll get the answers about, like with the Lakers and the Blazers, about playing a great opponent and what that reveals to you about your own squad. But the most important thing I want to ask him is, how do you know when it's the right time to make a big trade? The Blazers are now in a very interesting spot where they have some veteran contracts and they have some draft picks. They've got resources to be able to go out and make a big move if they want to make a big move and maybe make a play on someone like Giannis. But what I want to know is, how do you know when it's the right time? They've got a young core that's developing. They've got some nice young pieces that showed flashes this year. Is it time now to unload some of those pieces to bring in a player like Giannis, who's 31 years old? I just don't know what the formula is to know when the right time to bring that type of player in. I want them to go after Giannis. I also wish that he wasn't 31 years old. But it's now the right time. So we'll talk with Dave Deckhard about that. I want to get his take on that. I want to know what he thinks about that. And if he had his choice of the guys who may be available, would you go after Giannis? And we'll ask him about the fit and how he thinks Giannis might fit with this group of guys. But the Blazers, in order to get someone like Giannis, we're talking about multiple players, and they're going to want some of the young guys. So you're going to have to say goodbye to Scoot or Shaden almost definitely. But you're also talking about multiple picks. And 3 picks is probably not going to be enough to get it done. You're probably going to have to go with 4 picks. So 4 picks and players to bring in Giannis. Is that worth it? So we'll talk to Dave Deckhard at 5:20. Now, you can reach out and call the show at 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. You can also hit me up on social media. You'll find me there at Chad and Rip City, at Chad and Rip City. We can talk playoffs. We can talk NFL schedule. The full schedule will pop Thursday at 5. And so, obviously, we'll break it down and go through it. We got word today that the Broncos are going to open up their season Monday Night Football. First Monday night game of the year in Kansas City against the Chiefs. And I'm happy. They have to play at Kansas City at some point during the season. Better to get them early than it is late in December. Not only that, but Patrick Mahomes is coming off a serious knee injury. I would much rather play the Chiefs early at Kansas City and get Mahomes before he's back to being 100%, if he's even available to play in game number 1. So I kind of like the way that lines up, but it doesn't get any better than that. The NFL, they're geniuses when it comes to their schedule. They do a great job of throwing division rivalries out in week number 1, and it just whets our appetite, and we want more and more and more. But that is a big-time matchup. Broncos, Chiefs in the first Monday Night Football game of the year. And I hate Kansas City. I respect Patrick Mahomes. He's one of the greatest football players I've ever seen. But I still hate him. I don't like their fans. I don't like Arrowhead. I don't like their Chiefs chant. I don't like the fact that they win a lot. Andy Reid's a nice guy, but I don't like him. It's division hate. And it's okay. Division hate is a good, healthy type of hate. You're not supposed to like the teams that you're in your division that you play twice a year, especially a team like Kansas City that until last year was dominating the NFL. So we'll see how things look. I do want Patrick to come back healthy. He's just fun to watch. So we'll get the full schedule Thursday at 5 o'clock. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Football season is the best. And once we get the schedule that pops, really all I care about now is knowing when the Broncos play in Arizona against the Cardinals and whether or not it lines up with a proper weekend to where I can get the home ASU game and also get the home, the Broncos playing at Arizona. So you get the double dip there. Little college football Saturday, NFL Sunday. That's what I'm talking about right there. So there you have it. The schedule will pop on Thursday. Now tomorrow, so we get one NBA game tonight. We get one tomorrow. Both games are at 5. Tomorrow's games will be on ESPN. It's Detroit and Cleveland Game 5. So the Pistons dominated games 1 and 2. They were very competitive in Game 3 before the Cavs pulled away late in that game, thanks to James Harden. And then the Cavs put together a 24-0 run in Game 4 between the second and third quarter and blew Game 4 open. And so they evened up the series. The weird part about the Cavs, they're great at home, but they can't win on the road. That's wild to me. The home team is 11-0 in series that the Cavs have played in thus far. In the first round against Toronto and now against Detroit. And for the Pistons, critical that they get this Game 5 at home because you don't want to go back to Cleveland facing a 3-2 deficit in that series. The winner's going to move on and face the Knicks. And now you look at these two series, they're going to go long. And we know they're at least going to go 6. But think about the advantage now for Oklahoma City, who got the sweep last night over the Lakers. They're going to be able to sit back and get some much-needed rest. And then same thing goes for the New York Knicks. They had an injury to OG Anunoby. Now they're going to be able to sit back and rest while these other teams beat the crap out of each other. So a big advantage for New York and Oklahoma City because obviously you want to be playing your best basketball, but you also want to be as healthy as possible. And I tell you what, you coming out of the Minnesota-San Antonio series, whoever wins that series, they're going to be exhausted. It's been a very physical series. Physical. I mean, guys just ramming into each other. Physical play. And the Timberwolves, well, it's going to be really fun to watch tonight because Mitch Johnson, the Spurs head coach, he did a good job of complaining and really trying to get his message out about Wemby and the way that he's being guarded by the Timberwolves. I do not expect Minnesota to back off at all. The only way to play Wemby is to get physical with the guy because he's so big and so long. And if you let him move freely, he's going to kill you. The question is, how tight will they call that game tonight? All right, we'll come back and we'll talk to Alex Brink, who is now a member of the Hole in One Club. He was down at Bandon Dunes. I got to get his take on Bandon, get his take on the Hole in One, and we'll talk some NFL draft and some of the players and how they fit with their teams. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Brendan Slaughter is here. Chad Doing is here. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, he is fresh off his trip to Bandon Dunes, former Washington State Cougars quarterback, and with U4 Sports. Alex Brink is back on the Rip City Drive. Alex, I have not been to Bandon Dunes, the golf heaven. I'm jealous that you got to go, but how was the experience?
Wait. You've never been to Bandon Dunes?
I haven't, and the only reason why, Alex, is that I don't want to go by myself, and I haven't been able to find a time where I can get a group of my golfing buddies together to go. And so I feel like I'm missing out because everyone that's been, they, one, think I'm an idiot for not going, and two, they're like, you're not going to believe it. It is literally golf heaven.
Well, I'd be happy to go with you, Chad, anytime, just so you can experience it, because it certainly is. It is golf heaven. You got to get down there for sure. But no, my experience is fantastic. It's Bandon's the type of place, if you get the right weather. Probably no matter what the weather, but certainly when you get the right weather, it is heaven on earth. So we got great weather. Man, I was there Sunday to Wednesday. I got 5 full rounds in, plus the par 3. I played a lot of golf. It's probably about my max golf capacity, honestly. And it was all in support of a really cool organization called the Freshwater Trust. They've been running the Fight for Fish tournament down there for 22 years. So I got to be a part of that, which was pretty special. It's a special group of people.
That is pretty awesome. I'm so glad. Now, when you're on the course, did you have a caddy with you to kind of give you pointers and help you understand the lay of the course?
I did. I think I'm a little biased down there. You kind of have to. I mean, the greens are certainly they can be a little tricky. Also off the tee boxes, particularly when you're playing like a course like Bandon Trails, that's got a little different feel to it, or Pacific Dunes. It's nice to know that like you don't have to pull driver every time, and you could hit iron or you could hit something else. So like that was a big part of it. I felt like knowing where to hit it and how to hit it is a huge piece, and you really can't do it without a caddy. And these guys have been there, a lot of them 20-plus years. I mean, they know the course inside and out.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, you've played a lot of golf in a lot of different places. How challenging overall are the courses at Bandon?
Well, it certainly depends on the weather, right? Like if the wind's blowing, it changes the calculus of all of it. I think Pacific Dunes, in my opinion, when the wind's blowing, it's one of the harder courses out there. It's hard to hit. It's hard to hit fairways. It's super tight. That can be a real challenge. The holes down on the water are spectacular, but can be a challenge. But also Bandon Trails. Bandon Trails is a really tough track. It's one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite one down there to play. Visually, my first ever round down there was at the OG Bandon Dunes course, so like that's probably where my heart is. But as far as the playability, Bandon Trails is difficult and super fun. But again, we got pretty mild conditions, so that makes it really enjoyable when it's not windy and rainy.
So the conditions were mild throughout the entire trip, then.
Yeah, it was, you get 10 or 12 mile per hour winds, probably some gusts in the 15, but nothing like you see the fun social media posts when people are, trying to hit drivers into par 3s or, the wind's whipping up their clothes.
All right. You got to talk to me about the hole-in-one experience. It's your first. It's pretty freaking awesome. I was so happy when you texted me. You said, dude, I just got my first hole-in-one. What course, what hole, what distance? Lay it out for us.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of buried the lead, I guess, to some degree, right? Like, the trip was great, but this was certainly the highlight. I got my first ever hole-in-one, Bandon Dunes #2. It was also in kind of a competitive scoring round for this tournament we were in, so that was really fun. And, Bandon Dunes is about 100. It was 170 yards true. It played at about 175. So anybody that's played there, you got to hit it up the hill a little bit, and I hit a 7-iron about as good as I could hit it, to be honest with you, and kind of ripped it off a backstop. And I couldn't see it. Like that's kind of was wild, right? It's like I couldn't see it with where the pin was. And a guy playing in our group hit a great shot too. We walked up on the green, and the caddy goes, "Boys, there's only one ball here." And I was like, "No way!" Like, right? It's like here, like it would happen here, and we kind of peek all around into a collection area, and sure enough, there was only one ball on the green, and so I walked over to the top of the cup and I saw my mark on the ball, and needless to say, I went pretty crazy. It was really special, super fun moment. I got to share it with some great people, that were in my group, and it was fun. It's hard. Then you got to go tee off on the next tee box. It's like my heart was pounding. I was like felt like a tour guy. You know what I mean? It was pretty special moment for sure.
Gosh, that's so awesome, man. And that's the thing too, is like your heart starts pounding, your blood's pumping, and then you got to step up to the tee box. and be able to return to form, because the last thing you want to do is duff a drive after getting an ace.
You know what the worst part is? Here's the worst part, right? This is how, like, out of body I was, is I used the hole-in-one ball on number 3. I forgot to put it away, so I played the whole hole with it. And the caddy didn't want to tell me, right, because, like, we're in this round. So we get to the fourth tee box. I go to tee it up. He's like, "Brother, what are you doing? Like, give me that ball." I was like, "Oh gosh, yeah, I totally forgot." But it's funny you said I texted you, and people are like, "Why are you texting Chad?" Right? Like, you have been one of these people in my recent life on my golf journey to continue to improve. All thanks to the Henninger Golf Farm and Brian Henninger and Amy Simonson. Right? So, like, you knew how important it was to me. So I sent Brian and Amy a text to let them know you were on that short list of people that got a text as well, because we've had so much fun in our golf journeys together.
No, it's been great, because you really had a similar path that I did, Alex, where you've always played golf and you've always enjoyed it, but over the last few years you've really started to take it seriously and really try to up your game with the golf farm. And so to talk to you about your rounds and how you're playing and what's going on, it's like we're speaking the same language. So I was so excited for you. And, a hole-in-one is like, you just don't expect it to happen. So when it does, it's just like such a bizarre experience. It's awesome.
So out of body. Such an out of body experience. It was very wild. And then it was cool. There was a starter like up there in between 2 and 3 tee box, or the 2 and 3 green and tee box. And, right, so he's like radioing all over the course. So I pretty much walked up on every group, and they were, giving me a high five, which is kind of cool.
Now, the most important question is, does your business partner and Oregon Duck, Ryan DePaulo, have an ace?
This is actually a very fortuitous conversation. He does not have an ace.
Yes!
We played in a charity golf tournament yesterday, and he sunk a putt for fun, or not for fun. It was for money. It was for like a few $1,000s.
Yes.
He hit this long putt, and then he starts texting everybody in our organization, "Is it better to have a hole-in-one or sink a putt for big money?" You know what I mean? And fortunately, everybody said hole-in-one.
Yeah,
so,
hole-in-one.
He had that on me at least.
Gosh, that's so awesome. I'm just sad that I remember back in the day that they used to put hole-in-ones in the newspaper like the Oregonian. I just wish I could have opened up the fish wrap and seen Alex Brink ace at Bandon Dunes. That would have been pretty sweet.
That would have been all time.
And then you could have cut it out and put it up in DePaulo's office, too. He would have loved that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Gosh.
No doubt.
Okay,
so
well,
good.
I've got to go to Bandon Dunes, man. I'm so glad you had a chance to go. Now, I do have a couple of football questions for you coming out of the draft. We talked a lot about Fernando Mendoza. I know you were really impressed with his run last year at Indiana. He goes to the Raiders, first overall pick. The team hired Clint Kubiak, who is coach. They also signed Kirk Cousins to be a quarterback. What do you think about that situation for Mendoza coming in as a rook?
Look, I think it's really, really good in the sense that he has somebody that he can learn from and compete with. I think pretty highly of Kirk Cousins in general as a quarterback. We've talked about that before, but I also, you and I have talked about this a lot, that there's an element in the NFL where, especially if you're the first overall draft pick, going to a place like the Raiders, where although I think they're better under Clint Kubiak, or they should be better, it's still been a tough organization,
yes,
right, to win with. So. And so, I think for Mendoza to not have to go in and be the guy right away, I think is super important. It just gives him the freedom to go play and learn, and he'll be the guy probably at some point during the year, is my guess. It's just that's the way it works when you're the number 1 overall pick as a quarterback. But if he's not, right, if Cousins plays well and he gets to sit and learn, it's only going to help his development along the way. And if you just think about some of the, the really high level players that have had a chance to sit or have gone through transit. We've talked so much about Sam Dalton and like all the things he went through, and then we've talked about all the things that say a guy, some of these guys that are sat at first and then got their opportunity, like Jordan Love with the Packers. I mean, I really think like that's the path to success in the NFL.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. By bringing in Cousins, that tells me that they'll start Mendoza if he's ready, but at least they know they've got a veteran they can lean on. I just think it's like the best of both worlds. If Mendoza dominates camp and is ready, you play him. If not, then there's no rush, right?
No doubt. And Cousins knows the offense and he knows what to expect. And so there's going to be like an element there where he's maybe a step ahead. And, I just think in those situations when you can be the young guy that's the backup, right? There's less expectation to start. You can learn, and when you do get your chance, he's going to be ready. I mean, we know Fernando Mendoza as a player is, he's uber gifted and super smart and all these things that like should lend to success in the NFL. But oftentimes when it has to happen right away, like with Darnold at Carolina and the Jets and things like that, it's not, because they're bad situations organizationally. So I think the more important thing is Raiders got a good coach. They had a great draft class. They made some moves in free agency. So I think in general, it seems to be a more solidified situation than maybe it would have been, say, this time last year.
All right. As you know, I'm a big fan of Jordan Tyson and some of the Sun Devils with Kenny Dillingham. He was drafted by the Saints in the top 10, which is really cool. Health has always been a question mark for him, but how do you think his game will translate to the NFL level?
Yeah, I think it transfers really well. I mean, he's kind of a five-tool player, so to speak, at wide receiver. I think he can really stretch the field with his speed. He's got a big frame, goes up and gets the ball, but he's a solid route runner. Yes, I think injuries, that's been a little bit of a red flag, but in the NFL, if you can get a dynamic playmaker like that, especially for Kellen Moore, like trying to find guys that can make the big play, I think that's super important. I will say it's like for the Saints, going receiver that early is definitely a roll of the dice, assuming you've got the guy you want pulling the trigger and do you have all the other pieces you need. But I mean, Tyson, just in a vacuum, is a special player.
All right. I know that we're both big fans of the Rams and their operation and their coach. What did you make of them taking Ty Simpson in round number 1?
Yeah. What did I think? Well, I was surprised, like everybody else. I think Ty Simpson's a really solid player. I've known him since he was an Elite 11 quarterback. Obviously, coach's kid. Like he's got all the things, right, that you would want. The concerns are this. I have the same concerns everybody else has, which is against the best competition, he maybe wasn't his best, right? And so, although he played at a high level as far as, in the SEC and playing for Bama and those sort of things, and he sat and waited and bided his time, which I think is kudos to him. I worry that maybe he doesn't have enough snaps under his belt and his best football is not played against the best teams, right? And that's the NFL. That's not the way that happens. Now, for the Rams, I think it works because you're for sure getting another year, if not a couple, out of Stafford. They're still in that window where I think they want to compete for championships. The reaction from Sean McVay and all that stuff, I don't know what to make of that, right? I thought that was a little odd, but, I definitely think Ty Simpson can be a quality player in the NFL. I think the value at that pick was pretty low. I think he could have gone somewhere else. You could have gotten him somewhere else along the line.
Yeah, no question about it. I know you're familiar with Mekhi Lemon, big-time receiver out of USC. How do you think he's going to fit with the Eagles, who have a different brand of offense than most teams?
Well, I think, Lemon is a really, physical player and a guy that I think, really attacks the position at receiver that kind of lends to fitting into what Philadelphia is as an organization, what it is as a city. I think in that sense, he fits well. Some of the questions might be is, from a maturity standpoint, can he handle maybe not getting as many touches as he would like, right? Like, we already saw it with A.J. Brown, right? Like, the challenge of playing that offense is they're going to run the football. Jalen Hurts is a factor in running the ball. So there's less touches to go around. But also, if he develops into that wide receiver number 1 right away and Hurts really trusts him, then I think it's going to be a great fit.
That's awesome. One final question. I know you're familiar with this guy because he played at Washington. The Broncos drafted Jonah Coleman, running back. The one stat that I love about him for a team that needs an inside runner, he led the nation in yards after contact.
Yeah, well, for anybody that didn't watch college football or watch Jonah Coleman, that's not surprising at all. That young man's built like a bowling ball. He's got his legs are bigger than tree trunks. They're huge, and he's low to the ground. Right, he's a shorter back. Over the years, you've seen a lot of success of backs built like him because there's just less contact, less ability to make contact, right, with his frame. If people go low on him, they kind of bounce off. He has great contact balance. So, I did get to watch a lot of him. He ate up Washington State 3 years ago. And then when Washington State played in Seattle in the Apple Cup and John Mateer beat the Huskies, if they just handed it off to Jonah Coleman the whole time instead of trying to throw the football, they probably would have beat the Cougs, right? And so, I think he's that type of player. He's got good enough top end speed, but to your point about being between the tackles, I think he's a guy that can get you really hard yards at the NFL level.
And one thing I wanted to ask about him, he's also been praised for his pass protection. And a lot of running backs, when they come into the NFL, they can't be on the field on third down because the coach doesn't trust them to pick up blitzes. But he's really good at it. So, like, what type of coaching was Jonah Coleman getting that some of these guys don't? How do you learn how to be a good pass protector as a running back, coming through high school and college?
It's probably a couple layers to that. I think the biggest thing is that he's played for Jed Fish for so long, who was, Fish was in the NFL forever, right? He ran a more under center pro style offense. There was a lot of play action pass. There's a lot of protection schemes where the back is asked to scan and pick up extra guys. Some of it's schematic, right? Like if you play in the air raid offense or you're in a more of a spread offense, typically those backs are involved in the pass game more and less in protection maybe. And maybe just by design, they're not, physically built to protect the quarterback, like maybe a guy like Jonah Coleman, who's, again, in a pro-style offense. He's meant to run between the tackles, which by design, he's got a little bit bigger frame in that sense. And then he plays for a coach that was in the NFL and has an expectation of running backs protecting the quarterback and being involved in pass protection.
Alex, what's the key focus right now as we are getting close to summertime at E4 Sports?
So many great things at eForce right now. We're obviously heading into summertime, so there's a ton of summer camp options. If you've got a young athlete, anywhere from age 7 to 17, we've probably got something for them. But certainly in the summer for younger athletes, 8th grade and below, a bunch of football summer camps. We've got baseball summer camps, multi-week camps in June and July. We've got some basketball camps inside at our facility in Milwaukee. You can go to e4sports.com. Again, we have training facilities in Beaverton off Allen Boulevard, in Milwaukee off of McLaughlin. We have a space in Vancouver, and that is for pretty much all sports, strength and speed training. Again, if you got a young athlete in your life, check out e4sports.com. We got a program for you.
All right, one final question. The golf ball, the hole-in-one ball, where is it? And did you write anything on the golf ball? And do you have it displayed? What are you going to do with it?
Well, so there's actually an even cooler part to the story, which is I drove down to Bandon with a good friend of mine named Casey Kloss. Casey Kloss was a receiver at Portland State from Lake Oswego.
And his dad is the famous Rob Kloss, who's a tremendous human being.
One of the best families out there, right? And so on the same day that I got my hole-in-one, Casey Kloss got a hole-in-one at the Preserve Par 3 as well. So we both got hole-in-ones on the same day. It was both our first, and we drove down together. So we are going to get all of our stuff. We got flags and pictures and balls and stuff. We're gonna get them kind of matted and framed all together and get something pretty cool done up. So we're working on that right now.
That is awesome. All right. So any updates on the We Play Open? Do we have a date?
Oh, God bless you. Thank you for reminding me. We just have it finalized. We got a little changes here, but we are super excited. We are moving venues. We're going to Oswego Lake Country Club, which is going to be a really cool change. Yep, we're going to go a Monday in the fall. It's going to be October 13th. I want to make sure I get that right October 19th, Monday, October 19th at Oswego Lake Country Club. So we got a little more time to plan, get everybody out there. It's going to be the same great event. We're going to have even more access to the course and great food and beverage and so many things. So we're fired up to be at OLCC. October 19th, We Play Golf Tournament. I will make sure I send that information out. But if you're interested about supporting youth athletes in the state of Oregon, check out WePlayFoundation.org. That is our nonprofit foundation. Well, I enjoyed catching up with you. Congratulations on your ace, man. That is awesome. And you got to share it with Casey Kloss, who is a great man. So this is awesome. Great story, and I'm happy for you, buddy. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on. You got it. There's Alex Brink, former Coug. Got the ace down at Bandon Dunes. That's pretty good. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can reach out. Anything you want to talk about is fine by me. We can talk NBA playoffs. We can talk about the NFL schedule. I do want to take a look at the power rankings put out by ESPN post off-season maneuvers, both free agency and the draft. And as a Bronco fan, I feel pretty good right now, aside from Bo Nix having multiple ankle surgeries.
Outside of that, it's nice to know that your team is going to be a legit contender going into the year. You don't have to worry about quarterback. You don't have to worry about this or that or whatever. But Jonah Coleman, the running back from Washington, it's going to be very tasty to sit back and watch him between the tackles. That's a tough son of a gun right there. Led the nation in yards after contact. Like, you can hit him either behind or at the line of scrimmage. He's still going to get positive yards. That's how good he is. Now, see, the Raiders, they've done some smart things, but I can't trust them to be smart. But it's very simple. If Mendoza is not ready, then use Kirk Cousins. No need to rush him out there. I want Mendoza to be successful because I love his story. I love his attitude, his work ethic, the whole story. Like, he's super sharp, but he's also playing for the Raiders, which has been a sinking ship for years, run by pure incompetence. Let's hope that changes. At least they dipped into the Kubiak family to help with the head coach. But don't rush him out there. If he's not ready, he's not ready. Play Kirk Cousins. There's no need to rush him out there. They're not competing for a Super Bowl next year, for crying out loud. But if he dominates camp and proves he's the best quarterback, then put him out there. All right, we'll keep things rolling. You got the Rip City Drive. Well, you Seahawks fans should be happy. And there's one common link between the top teams from last year and what their pathway was in the offseason this year. Continuity. So the current power rankings in the NFL, now that we've finished the draft and free agency, no surprise, but the Seattle Seahawks are number 1. And according to the power rankings from ESPN, it says the Super Bowl champions didn't lose anyone on their offensive line, returning all 11 players who had at least one snap last season. That group should improve with continuity, and one draft pick could be their biggest addition of the offseason. General Manager John Schneider traded a 2027 fourth-round pick to draft Iowa's Bo Stevens in the 5th round. The AP All-American in 2025 looks like he's going to provide some much-needed competition for Anthony Bradford at right guard. So the Seahawks went with continuity. And I'm a big believer in continuity, especially on the offensive line. When you get the familiarity of that group and those guys working together, they tend to get better in terms of their footwork, being synchronized in their movement, especially in the type of scheme that they run. It's just going to put Seattle in a great position. And I think the good thing is now for Sam Darnold, coming off the Super Bowl win, I would imagine mentally for him, he'll be able to relax from the standpoint that he is now the bona fide starter. He knows it. Seahawks fans know it. He just won a Super Bowl, and now he can go out. And I think with that more relaxed mindset, without that pressure behind him, he might play better. But I was really impressed with what he did last year, and I just think the Seahawks are in a great position to make a run at back-to-back. I mean, back-to-back is rare in the NFL, but the Hawks do have a chance because of their young playmakers. They've got an effective quarterback, love their coach, but John Schneider has done a great job of building that roster. He's one of my favorite executives in all of sports. I love his energy. I love his smarts. And, you know, the Seahawks, once they got rid of Pete Carroll, the one gentleman who benefited greatly was John Schneider because he gave more autonomy. And so we're starting to see more of his imprints all over the roster, and that's a really good thing for the Seahawks, who are in great position. The LA Rams are second in the power rankings, and according to ESPN, it says the Rams went into the offseason knowing there would be significant turnover at the position, as the team had 4 pending free agents at corner. LA invested heavily at the position in March, trading for Trent McDuffie and signing Jalen Watson to a 3-year deal. A cornerback was a roster weakness at the end of last season, including the Rams' NFC Championship game loss to the Hawks, but that's no longer the case for the first time since L.A. traded away Jalen Ramsey in March of 23. So the two teams who are going to be battling for NFC West supremacy are top 2 right now in the power rankings, post all of the offseason maneuvers. And I still think last year, it's amazing how these things work out. But that Thursday night football game in Seattle late in the year, where the Hawks were down big, and it looked like the Rams were going to run away with another victory over the Hawks, they come all the way back, tie it up, get 2 two-point conversions, get a great special teams play. It goes into overtime. The Rams go right down the field and score. The Hawks go back down the field and get a ridiculous touchdown and a 2-point conversion and end up winning the game. And that was the win that allowed them to have home field advantage, which powered them into the Super Bowl. Crazy. All right, let's go out to the phones. My man Mitch in New Jersey wants to chime in. Mitch, what's cracking? What's on your mind?
What's poppin', Chad? Mike, you want to talk to me? I understand. I can dig. Hey, first of all, that's the best division, the AFC West. I think the Raiders are going to be better. They finally got their quarterback. Now, I wish he didn't have transfer from Cal, but I'm happy that he's going to win the Heisman either this year or next year. And he didn't transfer. And I think he's going to be a top pick in 2 drafts now. Kevin Sagapolitelli. Great name. Sounds like an Italian restaurant. You're going to hear the name. He's going to be first quarterback taken in the 28th draft. Cows will make noise. I got to remember, it's the ACC they're in, not the Pac-12.
That's right, the ACC. Stupid. Now, you do have to admit, you may not have liked Mendoza transferring, but it turned out to be a pretty good decision by him, right, to go to Indiana? That was a good decision.
okay, hindsight, but all of a sudden, Indiana, he could have gone to any school. I can see USC was at the wheel there because if Sagapolitelli wants to transfer, he better transfer to USC next year. I know Jalen Maava could win the Heisman. If he had gone out this year, I think he would have been the second quarterback taken. I think the Rams made a mistake. Cardinals, they drafted Love. They should have made a move for Ty Simpson. The Rams should have had my boy Kyle Lemon or Kyle Murray. They could have signed him for a year. What were they thinking? That's one. They don't make too many bad moves there. Rams. And Sagapolitelli is going to be one of the best quarterbacks ever from Cal. Move over, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Cap. Let him rest in peace. Pretty good actor. Now I'm 12, by the way, Joe Cap.
That's great. Hey, Mitch.
Nugget there for you, buddy.
No, I love it, Mitch. I appreciate it, man. No, I'm excited. I can't wait for football season. I'm pumped.
I'm waiting for my Dodgers to start heating up. Come on, it's great. They have no room for rushing.
I know. Yeah, they lost again last night.
Come on.
Yeah, they got taken out by the Giants. They're now a half game behind the Padres in the West. I think the LA Dodgers are going to be just fine. They're just going through a little dip right now, but they're still by far the best team in all of baseball.
And with Sam Darnold, he's just warmed up. This is his best ball he has played since leaving USC. He was pretty good at USC. He just didn't have a coach then. I think they were now. I love their talent that's coming in. The 27 class, they're building up on the 28, but the 26 class is going to be tremendous. A lot of talent. They're making the playoffs. They might be top 5 coming to this playoffs. And I hope it's not going to be 24 teams. That is ridiculous. But I hear you're going to go to both Arizona games. You are one lucky dude, Chad. Thanks for taking my call, buddy.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate you, Mitch. I'll share my thoughts on the 24-team college football playoff. I disagree, Mitch. I think it's going to be awesome. If they're talking about it, the Coaches Association has given their endorsement for 24 teams. The more people tell me it's a bad idea, the more I know it's a good idea. So I'm all for it. All right, we're going to talk with Dave Deckhard at 520. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, it's now 4 o'clock. What's going on, my friends? We start with the NFL. The full schedule is going to be released on Thursday at 5 o'clock, but we do have a leak. The Denver Broncos are going to play at the Kansas City Chiefs September 14th in the first Monday Night Football game of the year. Coming up today at 5 on NBC and Peacock, Game 5 of the Western Semis, Timberwolves at Spurs. That series all tied up at 2. San Antonio favored by 10. Victor Wembanyama will play after being ejected in Game 4 for the flagrant 2 when he threw an elbow in the face of Naz Reid. Tomorrow at 5 on ESPN, Game 5 of the Eastern Semis, the Cavs at the Pistons. That series all tied up at 2. Detroit favored by 4 in Game 5. The home team is 11-0 in Cavaliers playoff games so far this postseason. Got more of the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing coming at you right now. Dave Deckhard from BlazersEdge.com will join me at 5:20. All right, the main question I want to ask Dave Deckhard at 5:20, how do you know when it's the right time to make a big trade? And is right now the right time for the Blazers to make a big move with someone like Giannis? So we'll talk to Dave Deckhard. He'll join me coming up at 5:20. I would encourage you to podcast. You can always do so on our free iHeartRadio app. Yesterday, I had Bill Oram of the Oregonian on, who put out a terrific piece in the Oregonian with the latest myths and truths involving the negotiations between the Blazers and the state and the city and the county to be able to get the arena funding in place so that the Trailblazers can remain in Portland for a long period of time. Now, Bill did tell me that if the package is put together and they agree to terms, he thinks that the Blazers will stay. The problem is, anytime you have to rely on government to handle a big deal, especially in this city, it's a little bit dicey. And I thought Bill made a good point in his piece where it's like, hey, it's never good business for the city to get into an arena deal. But on the other hand, considering the alternative of this city and this area losing their only professional sports team in the Portland Trailblazers, that would be devastating. It'd be devastating for all of us and the city, which needs help right now. So there you have it. And the problem is the leadership in this state over the last, 2-3 decades? It's been pretty poor, and now look at the result. Big businesses are leaving town. I think the Blazers, as Bill pointed out, were 30th in the league in big-time sponsorship deals with big companies. So this area needs help. The last thing they need is to lose the Portland Trailblazers. So encourage your local politicians to get this stuff done because Dundon's not going to mess around. And the problem is, the other good point he made, too, is that the local officials, state, city, and county, they do not need to be playing defense right now. They need to be playing offense and going out of their way to put together a sweetheart deal to keep this team in place for a long period of time. And the reason why is that if Dundon looks to get out, there are plenty of places that would go head over heels to do whatever is necessary to land an NBA team because it's a scarce product. So just something to keep in mind. Always a little bit nerve-wracking when you get officials involved in negotiating, especially against shrewd businessmen like Tom Dundon. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Raise your hand for me if you enjoyed watching the Lakers get swept out of the postseason last night. I certainly did. And if you've lived in this area for an extended period of time, you're not a fan of the Lakers or their fake fans or anything that they bring to the table. LeBron James, arrogance, a billion championships. There's a lot of reasons to hate the Lakers. 2000, Game 7, Western Conference Finals. I mean, you name it, we've experienced it all here in Portland. So the Lakers get bumped out of the postseason. And they went through a similar experience that the Blazers did. They played a superior opponent in the Oklahoma City Thunder. And Game 4 was the only game that the Thunder did not win by double digits. The Lakers put together a good effort last night. They were in a position to win the game, but they just couldn't get the job done down the stretch. And Oklahoma City capitalized with their depth, with their star power, with their defense, their versatility, and they move on now to the Western Conference Finals. So there's no shame in losing to OKC. We all knew that they were going to win that series, but the big question is moving forward for the Lakers is how do you construct the roster? LeBron James is going to be a free agent, as is Rui Hachimura. They've got a decision to make about Austin Reeves, and they've got Luka Doncic. And I'll say the same thing about Luka that I said about Joel Embiid. If you're going to get paid the supermax and make tons of cash, which I don't have a problem with, you got to be available come postseason time. I'm telling you one thing, if I were the owner of any NBA team, I'm not investing heavy dollars into someone that plays sparingly or someone that you can't rely on to be there when their team needs them the most, which, of course, is the playoffs. And Luka sustained the injury, wasn't available, and the series probably would have been more competitive had they had Luka on the floor because he's such a dynamic, dominant offensive player. And the same thing with the Sixers. They couldn't rely on Joel Embiid. He made some contributions in their comeback series victory over Boston, but he was largely ineffective against the Knicks. Availability. Taking care of your body, being durable, and being available for your team. It's really important. So the Lakers have choices to make, and the question is, moving forward, they know what they have to do. They got to build a team around Luka because he's the future. He's the star player. It's not LeBron James anymore because he's 40-plus years old. But after the game, JJ talked about, how far they've come or how far away they are. And I think that's the big thing is you get a lot of truth coming out of a series against Oklahoma City, just like Portland did against San Antonio.
What's the gap between your group and a championship group?
That's what we got to figure out this offseason. I will say for the things that we set out to do and build our championship habits and build our championship communication and championship shape, I thought we were darn close to doing that. And it doesn't mean you're going to win a championship, but I take a lot of pride in our players and what they all individually went through, what we collectively went through, and what we turned out to be. You don't know on day one of training camp what you're going to turn out to be, and just proud of who we are.
In other words, we're not close. He's not going to throw all of his guys under the bus, but it was pretty obvious watching them play. They're not versatile enough. They're not good enough defensively. They don't have enough playmakers or scorers. And LeBron James at 40-plus years old can't be the same player he used to be. The problem is, how do you move forward? If LeBron is unwilling to take a significant pay cut, which I don't think he's going to do, you can't bring him back at that price and continue to build a team with Luka in mind for the future. And then the issue with Austin Reeves, who I think is a terrific young player. You've got Luka, who's not a good defender. And if you give Austin Reeves the bag and give him a bunch of money, then all of a sudden you got two guys who are primary targets when they're out there on the floor defending. So they may need to move off LeBron and off Austin Reeves to try and go out and find those versatile type bigs to play with Luka who can shoot threes and defend. That's probably the direction I have to go. And if you're LeBron James, my guess is he probably wants to stay in L.A. That's where he set up his home, his business ventures. Everything is now built around L.A., Hollywood, the whole thing. And his son, who plays on the team. But it might be in his best interest to go elsewhere, maybe back to Cleveland or possibly New York or maybe the Golden State Warriors. He would have a better chance to win, and it would allow the Lakers to be able to restructure the team around Luka. I don't think LeBron's going back to L.A. I think the Lakers have already made that decision. They were also purchased. They have new ownership that's in place, the same group that runs the Dodgers. They may look at things a lot differently in terms of how they want to construct a team. But my guess is LeBron will not be back with the Lakers. And if I were the Lakers, I would not bring him back because you've got Luka and you need the resources to be able to build around him and what he needs to be successful. And then we'll see where LeBron ends up. I would say it would be one of those spots, Cleveland, New York, or possibly Golden State with the Warriors. So keep an eye on that. But I do not expect him back. 503-248-0620. With the roster, here's what Rob Pelinka had to say today. Let's take a listen.
I'll sort of take them one at a time. I think in terms of LeBron, we probably haven't seen a player that has honored the game to the extent that he's honored the game. He's given so much to his teammates, to this organization. And the thing we want to do more than anything else is honor him back. And I think the first order of business there is allowing him to spend the time he needs to decide what his next step are. Does he want to play another year in the NBA? And that'll be, as he said to you guys last night, family time, I think time with his inner circle. And we just want to honor that for him. Of course, any team, including ours, would love to have LeBron James on their roster. That's a blessing in itself, just with what he does. In terms of Austin Reeves started his NBA odyssey actually with the Lakers on that court right over there. I remember it was a draft workout. In fact, I was talking to Austin last night. He was having a pregame meal talking about how drained and exhausted he was by the draft workout process, and that somehow he mustered up strength to have a great Lakers workout. I remember actually being here with my son on that court watching that, which is one of the turning points of getting him here, just that workout and how he approached it. But he started his journey here as a Laker and has made it very clear to us that he wants his journey to continue as a Laker. And we feel the same way. We want his odyssey to continue to unfold in the purple and gold. As you know, Dave, there's rules and timing to all of that, but I think both sides have made it abundantly clear that we want to work something out where he continues his prolific career here.
And JJ, that 16-2 stretch that you guys had from late February through the end of March, and we're juggling the three quarterbacks, I guess, as Rob said, it was clearly able to work. How do you feel about that core, getting a chance to coach that again?
I mean, I'll repeat what Rob said. Of course, we want that core to be back together. And I think Rob used the word humility, and each guy, I think, had to sacrifice at different points in the season and at different times. I also think for all three of those guys, and it's crazy to say that about LeBron too, but all three of those guys showed a lot of growth this year. And I think, a lot has been made about Luka's fitness level and his dedication to that. He was great throughout the season. He's still in fantastic shape 6 weeks after an injury. But he's also grown as a leader. Like I think that was one of the challenges coming into the season that we presented him with. He grew in that regard. Austin grew in that regard. LeBron, having to, not even having to, but being challenged to, and then volunteering to accept a different role in year 23. Like that is incredible growth. So, all three of those guys, I think we kind of hit the apex of that in that 16-2 stretch, and it showed what this group can do.
All right, there you go. That's Rob Pelinka and J.J. Redick, general manager and head coach of the Lakers. Of course, they're going to say nothing but nice things about LeBron. Of course. But there's no way that they can bring Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves back and be legitimate contenders in the Western Conference. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Even if they had Luka on the floor during the postseason this year, they would not have been able to compete for a championship. And the Lakers, at least as far as I know, are about competing for championships. So my guess is LeBron will go elsewhere unless he's willing to take a significant pay cut, and I just can't see that happening. And then with Austin Reeves, maybe you bring him back, but he also might be a valuable piece if you're looking to go out and retool the team. So they said all the stuff they're supposed to say ahead of the draft and free agency, which was pretty much nothing, except that they want to honor LeBron because he's honored the game for 20-plus years. That's really nice. All right, 503-248-0620. I will give credit to LeBron. The one thing he did last year and this year, adapting and taking a different role, when he's on the floor with Luka and allowing him to have the ball in his hands and LeBron learning to attack the offensive glass, be a rebounder, a help defender, and adjusting his game. I thought that was impressive. All right, we'll keep things rolling. You got the Rip City Drive. Chad Doing with you on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, nothing wrong with the little Doobie Brothers. I've seen Michael McDonald in a solo show. I think I've only seen the Doobies once, and that was at the Classic East back in 2017. That was a pretty sweet concert. The Doobies opened the show. It was at Citi Field in Flushing where the Mets play. Beautiful ballpark, but it's set up in a trashy area of town. So it's like perfect for the Mets. Great new ballpark, trashy area of town. Like when you come out of the stadium, it's not like in the Bronx with Yankee Stadium. There were like hubcap dealers and really shady businesses around the ballpark. And I'm not even joking. And I stayed in Flushing at a hotel nearby. That was my first time going to New York. But the Doobies opened up the show, very good. Followed by Steely Dan, very good. And then the Eagles were the closing act on the Sunday show, very good. So it was very nice. The Godfather was there, his wife Nancy, and that was my first time in New York. What a wild experience that was. I went into it thinking, yeah, New York, whatever. Bunch of arrogant a-holes. That's what I thought. Overrated, overhyped, like they're the center of the universe. And then as I boarded a plane, short flight from Philly into LaGuardia, like when we came out of the clouds and I saw the city skyline for the first time, looking at Manhattan, I was blown away. I'm like, wow, it's the never-ending city. Never seen anything like it. And then you get in there and you start bumping around. You're like, okay, it's great. Wouldn't want to live there. A little crowded for my taste, but it really is a great place. And I think the principal, Curtis Long, went to New York for the first time last year. I was encouraging him to go alone and telling him about the benefits of solo travel, which is very nice. He went and loved it and had a chance to check out a lot of different sights and sounds and everything. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Now, coming up at 5, I'm going to reset the conversation I had yesterday with Bill Oram, which was very good because he kind of set the record straight on a variety of different topics surrounding the Blazers and this effort to get the financing in place to get the arena improvements. I mean, we're only talking about the future of the Trailblazers being in Portland for an extended period of time. And I think the current lease expires in 2030, which is horrifying. That's not a good scenario with a new owner taking over, who has zero ties to the Northwest. But I asked him, I said, Bill, if the financing is done, if a deal gets reached, the state, the city, the county, they can all come to agreement, and Dundon gets the funding that he is seeking for the arena improvements, will they get the lease deal done and will the team remain? Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I do. I think that there's steps along the way where things could still fall apart. I think negotiating the actual lease terms could be tricky. Dundon's going to want a lot. The city is going to probably have to feel some pain on the concessions. I mean, there's a lot of things they're asking for, as reported by my colleague Shane Dixon Kavanaugh over the weekend, including street pricing in the arena like you get at PDX. That's probably not going to happen because that is one less area that you're making revenue in the building. In a place where you already don't have sales tax, where you don't have legalized gambling at the arena, like there's just not that many levers you can pull. So you're not going to suddenly charge $1 for a hot dog at Moda Center or $5 for a beer. That's going to be a tough one. So a lot of things they're asking for, I don't think are going to be realistic or going to be palatable to the group coming in. That doesn't mean that that I'm in Tom Dundon's pocket or think that you should bend over and give the billionaire everything he wants. But I just don't see where the city or the county or the state has any leverage to push back on this deal. I think you push back on this deal, it falls apart, and then you're in trouble.
Yeah, they don't really have any ability to push back. The one area where they have to push back is if, I've heard whispers that they might be looking for a buyout clause. You simply can't allow that type of nonsense. That's where you push back. Give him whatever else he wants, but push back on the buyout. We're not doing a buyout. It's got to be at least a 20-year ironclad lease, at least 20 years. It should be 30. We'll settle for 20, but we're not giving you a buyout clause. Sorry, Mr. Dundon. But, again, what alternative do they have? You going to let the team go? Because you're trying to play hardball with Dundon, who owns the Blazers? How would you like to be in in elected office and be on the watch when the Trailblazers leave town. I mean, that would not go well for you. That'd be devastating. So we'll see. We'll see how things play out. I think it's going to be okay. I think they'll get the deal done because they don't have a choice. And then Dundon will get the financing, the money he wants. They'll get the arena improvements done. And then, boom, lease signed, case closed. Again, I'm not here to say that, something bad's going to happen. I don't believe that. I just get nervous anytime government's involved in anything. Bureaucracy, it makes my skin itch. Like when you think about government, it's like, oh, gosh, that's going to go well. I'm sure that negotiation is going to go just fine. Elected officials dealing with a billionaire. And what concerns me, too, is that I'm not convinced that our elected officials truly understand the value of sport. There's certain things that are important to me that I want my tax dollars to go to. Having professional sports team is right up there near the top of the list. Having a beautiful arena to go to for different shows and events and things where we can spend time together as a community or with your family. I love that. And I'm a big lover of public parks. That's all. So I'll get to more of the conversation with Bill Oram. I don't think that Bill is trying to, scare everyone. I think he's just legit. After talking with him, I think he's legitimately concerned, and he's just trying to let people know what's going on so that they can let their voices be heard. That's all. But obviously, we don't want the Blazers to leave. Can you imagine what that would do to the city? God help us. Because if you lose that team, it ain't never coming back. We're done. Done. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can reach out. You can have conversation with me. Whatever you want to talk about is fine by me. I'm pretty much okay with anything. I mean, honestly, I just care about people, so I'm here to help you. So if you want to chime in and share your thoughts on anything, you can do so. All right, I want to get back to that NFL power rankings. The Seahawks, continuity is what spells their offseason. And as a result, they're number one in the power rankings right now, following free agency and the draft, which is really good. Rams number two. So the top two teams in the NFC West are going to be battling for the division, top two in the power rankings. I'll get to number three in just a moment. Let's go out to Mike in Portland. Mike, I appreciate the call. You're up on the Rip City Drive. What is on your mind?
You know what, Chad? You were just going on the Blazers here, and I actually caught that Bill Oram interview yesterday. I think he is reporting astutely and accurately to his own opinion. But I think there's a lot of opinion there. There's just a lot of opinion about what might happen, what could happen. I don't think there's any elected officials in this state that want to see the Trailblazers go. And I don't say that for sports franchises in general. I mean very specifically the Portland Trailblazers were founded here over 50 years ago, right? They're not really a team anymore. They're a part of the piece of the identity. I think it's going to get done. I think we don't have anything else to worry about right now as Trailblazer fans. I wish we were worried about what was going on in a playoff series right now, but because there's nothing else to talk about, this is what we're talking about. And I know how it goes in the summer here. I think there's nothing to worry about as far as getting this current lease done. If there's something to worry about, is that it's $600 million improvement instead of, hey, I'm going to build a brand new stadium in 15 years. The improvements will help. There's good bones at the Moda Center. I'd much rather have an owner say, hey, it's fine for now. Let's do some light, let's put some paint over here, paint and polish. And then how about in 10 years, 12 years, we just demo this thing, do something state-of-the-art, because I'm that committed to the area. That would be the end-all, be-all. I don't think we're going to get that this year or even in the next 20 years, unfortunately. But I think it's a lot of smoke. You should rehash the interview. It was good to his opinion, but, that's what I got today, Chad. Thanks.
You got it, Mike. I appreciate that. Yes, obviously, he's sharing his opinion on certain things, but it's a report based on people that he's talked to. And he's talked to a lot of people, so it's pretty good reporting by Bill Oram. in terms of information he's getting on the process and what's going on. Now, what I heard from a different source who had talked to multiple people is that there was a bit of a hang-up on a potential buyout clause. That's what I heard a couple of weeks ago before the Game 3 against the Spurs. So, we'll see. But with the other stuff, I think Tom Dundon is going to do just fine. Running the team, aggressive, wants to win. He's proven with his hockey team that he's going to invest in his team and his players, which is good. Now, there are other things that he's going to look to shave off and cut, anything that he deems to be unnecessary, and that's okay. I mean, it's his prerogative. It's his team now. He can do it however he wants. But if he invests in the players and puts the right people in places to build a good roster that can eventually compete for a championship, that's all that really matters. As I've said before, for me, it's very simple when it comes to an owner. Do you want to win, and are you willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen? And if the answer to that is yes, then I'm cool. And again, we'll find out in time. I mean, it's early, and Dundon is yet to make any major decisions. So let's see how the process plays out with the state, city, and county. Let's see how things play out with the front office. I'm curious to see if they're going to replace Mike Schmitz, who's now running the Dallas Mavericks, along with Masai Ujiri. And how aggressive are they going to be in the upcoming offseason when it comes to changing the roster? Are they going to go with status quo and continue internal development with the young players, or are they going to look to go big game hunting? Don't know the answer, but I can't wait to find out what the plan's going to be. So there you have it. And with the coaching search, as I've said before, I'm glad that they're doing a coaching search. I think it would be malpractice not to do one. You have an acting head coach in Tiago Splitter who had a tremendous first year when he was handed a grenade. Now you got an opportunity to go out and interview other candidates, find the best coach, or find the candidate that you believe is the best coach for this team moving forward. With the team that you have, what your vision is, find that guy. If it's Tiago Splitter, good. If it's somebody else, fine. Make the hire. And as long as they hire it because they believe that that's the best coach for the job and not because he's willing to do it for less, then I'm okay with that. I don't want a coaching hire based off of economics. Well, we could have had this guy, but this guy here was willing to do it for less, so we hired him. I don't think that's what's going to happen. That's what's being portrayed right now, and that's what many people think. I don't think that that's the approach. But if you make a hire just based off of straight finances, that's problematic. You need to hire the guy that you believe is the best person for the job and then pay him according to his experience level. But I do like the idea of talking to many different coaches. Talk to them all. Find out what they think about your team and your roster and your players and the job that their coaching staff did this year. The great thing about Tiago is that you know what he's about now because he went through everything this year. He's an assistant, and then the head coach gets removed by the FBI after game number 1. He's thrown in as the acting head coach, and he had to learn on the fly. And, oh, by the way, we're going to stricken your team with injuries throughout the course of the year. They didn't have a game fully healthy until the play-in game at Phoenix, which is insanity. And yet they had 6 games improvement year over year. They got into the postseason, and they showed development throughout the year, so it was good. But, again, that doesn't mean that Tiago is the best fit for this team moving forward. I love the job Tiago did, and I like him, so I would love to see him get the job. But most importantly, just go out and find the right guy, whoever the best guy is. But I'm a big fan of doing coaching searches and talking to many different candidates because you might just come across someone that you realize is better and is the perfect fit. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. The Denver Broncos are number 3 on the power rankings. Biggest improvement was at wide receiver, and that's because they gave away their first-round pick to get Jalen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins. That's going to open up things for Cortland Sutton and give Bo Nix a legitimate target. Waddle, he opens up the field, and he can go to the house no matter where he's at on the field. Now, according to ESPN, the hope is Waddle also unlocks the deep part of the field for quarterback Bo Nix, who had a 38.7% completion rate on attempts of 20 or more yards down the field. That's not very good. Waddle's yards per pass route, 2.34, was 11th best in 2025 and well ahead of the highest-ranked Bronco player, which was Cortland Sutton at 1.75. But like the Seahawks, in an offseason that saw the Broncos re-sign 17 of their 21 unrestricted, restricted, and exclusive right free agents, the big swing was Jalen Waddle. But again, there you have it. Seahawks, Rams, Broncos, bringing back their own guys. Continuity. Now, the Bills chime in at number 4. ESPN says their most improved position was safety. They say the Bills got younger at safety after dealing with injuries last year. They signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Geno Stone before drafting Jalen Kilgore in the 5th round. The starters are likely to be third-year player Cole Bishop and Gardner-Johnson, but there's going to be good competition in the room. Sam Franklin Jr.'s special teams abilities and Jordan Hancock's potential to play nickel and safety could also land them spots on the team. The Eagles are at number 5, and we all know they've got one of the best rosters in all of football. They upgraded significantly at tight end, and ESPN says the most action has been at receiver for the Eagles after drafting Mekhi Lemon, trading for Dontavian Wicks, and signing Hollywood Brown and Elijah Moore. Good gracious. They go on to say, but that's in part about trying to offset the expected departure of A.J. Brown. Similarly, they acquired edge Jonathan Greenwood, but lost Jalen Phillips in free agency. At tight end, Philly selected Eli Stowers in the 2nd round and inked Johnny Munt and Stone Smart to 1-year contracts. Add the resigning of Dallas Goedert, and the Eagles have built a good tight end room. All right, so there you have it. Your top 5 in the power rankings. Seahawks, Rams, Broncos, Bills, Eagles. Can't wait for football season. It's going to be so good. And what are we in now? May? Is this May? Yeah, so we're in May. So what do we got? Like 2 months, and then we're going to be in camps? Like 2 months, and camps are going to be opening up.
Let's go.
Let's go. When do the Beavers open up their football camp, Brendan?
Yeah, no official start date, but that first week of August, so I'd guess like the 4th, 5th. So, yeah, to your point, Chad, it's coming right up real quick.
All right, coming up at 5, I'll reset the conversation with Bill Oram. And at 5:20, we'll talk some ball with Dave Deckhard. I want to ask him, when is the right time to make a big move? You know, maybe the Blazers are going to go big game hunting this offseason. When is the right time to do it? How do you know? You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. I think this is probably my favorite Phil Collins song. Probably. He's got so many. But he and Philip Bailey together, fabulous. And this is one of those songs where it still sounds fresh today. It's not dated. Like certain songs, you can tell right away which decade it comes out of. But this song sounds like today that it just came out yesterday, which is awesome. Easy Lover. I think it was on the album Chinese Wall by Philip Bailey. And, of course, he has long been with Earth, Wind, and Fire, which, by the way, are great in concert. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Big thanks to Alex Brink for joining the show today. You can podcast on our free iHeartRadio app. He now joins the Hole-in-One Club, which is pretty sweet. I was just thinking about this the other day. I was talking to someone who has multiple aces. I've had two. Scotty Bethune recently joined the Hole-in-One Club. He was very happy about that. He's also happy for Alex Brink. Hole-in-ones are awesome, and they're also very unexpected. There's a lot of good fortune and maybe luck. I don't know what you call it. But you don't expect to get a hole-in-one when you're stepping up to hit a shot. It just happens. And it's crazy. But I had that experience the first one, that the blood was coursing through my veins. And when you got to step up on the next tee box to hit a tee shot, it's a little nerve-wracking because you don't want to hit a bad shot after having an ace. That'd be very embarrassing. But I still think the best experience when I broke 80 for the first time. That was the best experience because that's much harder to do. So the first time I went sub 80, that made me happy because I had looked it up. I think only 7% of golfers go sub 80, so that's considered the holy grail in golf. And for you golfers out there, you understand it. So the hole-in-ones are fun, but unexpected. But I still think the first time I broke 80, that was the ultimate experience. And then as time goes on, you know, you look for different goals and things you want to set your sights on. My objective this year is to shoot sub 70. So I want a 69. Anything sub 70 would be nice. Very difficult to do. And today I played round number 6. And just step by step, you know, it takes a few rounds to get, you know, just back in sync because the indoor practice during the bad weather months, it's not the same as being out on the course. Getting used to walking the course every day, the fatigue that comes into play, the conditions, the footing, the whole shebang. But I think breaking 80, that was the thrill, the ultimate thrill. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can reach out. We can talk about anything. We got the basketball game coming up here at the top of the hour, Spurs and Timberwolves. It's my favorite series right now. I don't know how the game's going to play out tonight, but one thing I can guarantee is physicality. The Spurs are not going to back down, and neither are the Wolves. The Wolves are, like, that's a very difficult draw because they're mentally tough, and they're just going to continue to come after you. I think the item to watch in tonight's game is going to be how the officials deal with the Wolves' aggressiveness on Victor Wembanyama. Because the Wolves are not going to stop being physical with Wemby. It's the only way to play the guy. You've got to put a body on him. You've got to make him feel you. You've got to make life tough on him. The question is, how ticky-tacky will the officials get tonight? And again, this goes back to what I was talking about with Dwight yesterday. This is on the officials. It's on the officials. They're the ones that weren't calling the game the way they were supposed to. And then Wemby gets really frustrated and decides to throw a death elbow at Naz Reid. And that was a dirty elbow. It wasn't accidental. He was looking to take someone's dome off, and he nearly did. Naz Reid's a big, strong guy. Also, when you're that tall, it'd be very difficult to swing your elbow and not connect in someone's face. I think Naz Reid's, like 6'8", 6'9", somewhere in that area? Like, that's pretty tall. And Wembanyama towers over him because he's 7'5". He's a freak. But when the officials don't call the game the way they're supposed to, or they pick and choose when they're going to call fouls, they've clearly allowed the aggressiveness and the physicality to play out in the postseason. Now, I grew up with that type of play. And so I'm attracted to physical basketball because it's what I was exposed to at a young age. But you don't have the enforcers on the floor who can protect your guys like you used to because guys used to police themselves. Like if you took a shot at Michael Jordan, Charles Oakley was going to put a forearm shiver on you. Legitimately. If there was a fight and you took a cheap shot at someone, somebody was going to get you in the next game. Robert Parrish did that to Bill Laimbeer. Knocked him out and did not get tossed from the game. And the officials said, well, he had it coming. Like that's how it used to be done. I know it sounds absurd, but that's exactly the way it was played. Guys weren't ejected. Fighting was expected. And the officials allowed some of it to take place because they knew that payback was coming. But now you don't have the enforcers, so you don't have guys who can protect your players. And so Wemby was put in a very awkward spot. Now, I will say this. If you're a superstar like Wemby and you're the franchise cornerstone and you're the presumed leader of the squad, even though he's young, he's got to keep his head. Because they don't lose that game if he gets tossed. I believe that. And he got tossed by losing his dome. And he cost his team a game, and now they're in a dogfight of a series instead of being up 3-1 and a chance to close it out tonight. They've got to hold on for dear life and get the win so they don't have to go back to Minnesota facing elimination. And that's because Wemby lost his head, threw an elbow, got ejected from the game, and they lost. And Minnesota took clear advantage. As I mentioned before, the number one game in terms of drives to the hoop under Chris Finch was that game, Game 4. I think they did it 39 times. The message was pretty clear after Wemby got tossed. Attack the basket, boys. And it was everyone. Julius Randle, Ant Edwards, Desumnu, Naz Reid. They were relentless in their attack. And while Cornette is a solid player, he's not Wembanyama, obviously. But how the officials deal with the physicality in the way the Wolves are going to go after Wembanyama tonight, keep an eye on that. Because if they call it close and they're trying to keep the game under control, especially after Mitch Johnson let it be known that he hated the way the game was being officiated and Wemby being a star, my guess is you're going to see some ticky-tack stuff tonight, and that could put the Wolves in a situation where they get in foul trouble. And they can't afford to lose some of their key bigs. Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, all those guys are critical to their attack. And how much does Ant have in the tank after that Game 4? I mean, he laid it all on the line. He poured himself out in that game. I just hope he's got enough energy to be able to be really effective because he's going to have to make big-time shots again tonight like he did in the fourth quarter in that Game 4. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll come back and reset my conversation with Bill Orm of the Oregonian, focused in on the negotiations going on between the state, city, county, and the Trailblazers to get the funding in place for the arena improvements. And then Dave Deckhard with me at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, it's now 5 o'clock. What's going on, my friends? Chad here. The NFL schedule will drop coming up on Thursday right at 5 o'clock. We do have a leak for the first Monday Night Football game of the year. It'll be Denver at Kansas City. That'll be on September 14th. Coming up here in a couple of minutes on NBC and Peacock, we got Game 5 of the Western Semis. What a series it's been so far. Timberwolves at the Spurs. They're all tied up at 2. San Antonio tonight favored by 10. Victor Wembanyama will play after being ejected in Game 4 for the flagrant 2 on Naz Reid. Tomorrow at 5 on ESPN, Game 5 of the Eastern Semis, Cavs and Pistons from Detroit. That series all tied up at 2. Detroit favored by 4. The home team 11-0 in Cavaliers playoff games this season. Dave Deckhard will stop by at 5:20 to talk some ball. We'll talk playoffs and also ask when the right time to make a big move is for your franchise. All right, Dave Deckhard going to stop by here in about 19 minutes. And we're getting close to the start of the Spurs and Timberwolves game number 5. Can't wait to see the physicality. How are the officials going to call that game? That's going to be critical. Now, Bill Oram was kind enough to join me yesterday, and I want to reset some of his comments so that we can all get up to speed on the negotiations with the Trailblazers, Tom Dundon, the state, the city, and the county for getting the public funds in place to where they can get the arena improvements, but most importantly, get that 20-year lease signed so the Blazers are in place for an extended period of time. That is critical. Now, one thing that I've seen online, especially with social media, is that Bill Oram is considered the villain right now, someone who's sounding the alarm, and people are not down, and they're taking shots at him. So I asked him, why are you the villain? What's going on with you, Bill? And here's what he had to say.
Well, I think people don't want the Blazers to move. And it's a lot easier if you just believe that it's not possible. And there's sort of a spirit within the city of Portland, one that, it's obviously a terrific place. Like you and both raised our families here for a reason. But that it's the best place. And anybody who doesn't understand that can go to hell. And there's I think this attitude that is really hurting Portland in this moment where, there's not a realization at certain levels of local government and from certain, observers that there are things that need to change and that there are things about us that aren't perfect as a city. And, but I think where I'm getting the shrapnel is I'm saying, hey, the team could move if these certain steps don't happen. Not because I care one way or the other about what Tom Dundon gets out of the deal, but because I want to see this team stay. It is really, really important to my livelihood as a sports writer, but also to my soul as a native Oregonian raising his kids here. Part of the reason people want to live in Portland is that it's a major league city, and it's the Trailblazers who make us a major league city. I have a line in the column that ran today that you referenced, and it's something I've been saying for months. The Trailblazers are the only thing that make us more like Seattle than Spokane.
Yes.
And I think that that's something that's a hard truth that people need to realize. This is not a big major city in a lot of ways. It's the 23rd largest media market. Do we have the Trailblazers because it was the 23rd largest media market, or are we the 23rd largest media market because we have the Trailblazers? And what do we become if they're not here? And I've looked at this for months, all sides of it, talked to people on all sides of it, and I firmly believe that if the city or the county does not fulfill its portion of the delicate agreement has been sort of agreed to in practice by County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson, Mayor Keith Wilson, Governor Tina Kotek, and the Trailblazers to get this $600 million public financing. If the deal as sort of designed by those four sides comes together, the Blazers stay, and there's a 20-year lease. If it doesn't, you're staring down the barrel of a 3-year expiration date on the lease and an owner who has no ties to Portland in a climate where it's difficult to do business in Portland. I've referenced recently that the Blazers ranked 30th in total sponsorship revenue. They don't have a jersey patch sponsor because they wanted to get a local sponsor for that, piece of real estate on the jersey, and no local company stepped up. So it's not a great business climate in Portland, as we well know. And I just believe it with every fiber of my being, from the conversations I have and my ability to have some critical thinking here, that if this falls through, Tom Dundon will take the opportunity to go have conversations with other cities. And once that happens, I believe it is over, because the packages that will be offered elsewhere will absolutely crush what Portland and Oregon are trying to provide, simply because there's such an eagerness to get an NBA team and there's such a scarcity of NBA teams. We're not talking about Seattle and Vegas. We're talking about everybody else. Austin, Nashville, San Diego, Kansas City, Vancouver, BC, Raleigh, where Tom Dundon already has a building. All of these things are in play and are probably better places to do business if you're Tom Dundon than Portland.
All right, that's Bill Oram on why he has been a villain in his reporting. He just shared his thoughts on that. And then I also asked him about the press. Tom Dundon takes over, and I've never seen a situation where a new owner takes over and 2, 3, 4 weeks, the worst run of press I've ever seen in my life. How does that happen? Help me understand.
Good question. I think there's just a lot going on that's unprecedented. I don't think you've ever had a lease negotiation playing out in the middle of a team transition. I don't know that, if Tom Dundon had taken over the team in the offseason, or if the Blazers had simply missed the playoffs, I don't think that his cost-cutting measures, such as they were, would have landed with such force. I mean, people really responded to the two-way guys not traveling in the playoffs. The coaching question, what they're willing to pay a coach, obviously has generated a lot of consternation. I think that a lot of stuff happens in the off season with the business side of an organization and people don't even notice. I think if next year you turned around and if there had been some changes to the traveling party or whatever, I don't know that people would have even totally noticed. So I think a lot of it was that it happened when there was a lot of focus on the Blazers and a lot of enthusiasm. I also think that, Tom probably didn't quite, I think Tom had somewhat underestimated the difference in the visibility of an NBA owner versus an NHL owner. In Raleigh with the Hurricanes, he's gone through this before where people were concerned he was going to move the team and an arena deal. I never heard about it, Chad. Did you?
No.
I don't know what's going on with the Carolina Hurricanes in the NHL but in the NBA, owners are celebrities. I don't think I know one NHL owner who doesn't also own an NFL or an NBA team. It just isn't quite the same thing. And maybe there's NHL fans who are out there going to tell me I'm crazy, but as a person whose life is sports and paying very close attention to sports business, I just don't think the NHL has the same sort of mainstream breakthrough, especially when you're talking about the owner. So I think that maybe Tom's a little bit caught off guard by how much focus there was on this stuff. But also, everything sort of plays into this fear that Portlanders have about losing the Blazers or about being taken advantage of. So the idea that now he's coming in and pinching pennies and he's a Scrooge McDundon, as I called him, or El Cheapo, that's fun in games, really. But I do think that his penny pinching has been overstated, because if you look at the Hurricanes, they've spent on their roster, they've spent on facilities for their players. I think in the NBA there is more ancillary stuff you actually have to invest in. I don't think you can simp on the coach and get away with it. And it's possible they'll turn around and hire Billy Donovan for $10 million a year and say, we needed to have a Hall of Fame coach. That was a priority. But I think the more likely scenario is that, yes, they want to come in well under market value on a coach, and you buy low on a product and you sell high. And if you can mine a young prospect who, you can save several million dollars a year on and still get the same results, that's good business. I don't know that it works in the NBA, but I do think that is his philosophy.
All right. That's Bill Oram on the bad run of press for Tom Dundon since he's taken over. I also asked him about the point he made in his piece about, how the local officials need to play offense and not defense. Just what he had to say.
I agree. And I would reference people back to an editorial that the Oregonian ran last summer. I didn't have a part in it. I didn't even know it was coming. There's sort of a separation between church and state of the newsroom and then our editorial board. And I thought they made a really astute point, which was they needed that, the Blazers, that Portland needed to be the best place for the Blazers, not because they've been here, but because it's the best place overall. The best case for a team to be of anywhere in the country. And I don't think that has happened. I think that this deal that is in front of, city councilors and county commissioners right now is the good enough deal. It's the deal that keeps them here. It's not the deal that dazzles them and wows them, but it keeps them here. And that has to be good enough for the next 20 years.
All right, one final thing. If a deal gets done, will the lease get signed? Like, if the funding comes through and Dundon gets what he's asking for, is everything going to be okay?
Yeah, I do. I think that there's steps along the way where things could still fall apart. I think negotiating the actual lease terms could be tricky. Dundon's going to want a lot. The city is going to probably have to feel some pain on the concessions. I mean, there's a lot of things they're asking for, as reported by my colleague Shane Dixon Kavanaugh over the weekend, including street pricing in the arena like you get at PDX. That's probably not going to happen because that is one less area that you're making revenue in the building. In a place where you already don't have sales tax, where you don't have legalized gambling at the arena, like there's just not that many levers you can pull. So you're not going to suddenly charge $1 for a hot dog at Moda Center or $5 for a beer. That's going to be a tough one. So a lot of things they're asking for, I don't think are going to be realistic or going to be palatable to the group coming in. That doesn't mean that that I'm in Tom Dundon's pocket or think that you should bend over and give the billionaire everything he wants. But I just don't see where the city or the county or the state has any leverage to push back on this deal. I think you push back on this deal, it falls apart, and then then you're in trouble.
All right, there you go. There's Bill Oram. Appreciate him joining the show to break it down. So hopefully that kind of gets you up to date on where we're at. And, the way I see it is, what option do they have? They don't have one. They have to make sure they do whatever it takes to keep the Trailblazers. I just like that concept of playing offense. Make Portland the most attractive place possible for him. Don't be difficult. Just get it done. Having a basketball team and having the Moda Center in place and getting it renovated is a very good thing for the area. But I also love sports and understand the value of sports. And I can think back to over the last 30 years of all the different times I've spent at Moda Center for sports, for different events, concerts, you name it. Like, it's been fun. I got a lot of great memories there that aren't even sports related. I have a lot of annoying memories there, too, from Blazers games gone wrong. 503-248-0620. We'll come back and, how do you know when it's the right time to make a big move? We're going to ask Dave Deckhard of BlazersEdge.com coming up next. Spurs and Timberwolves ready to tip off down in San Antonio. And then we got Detroit, Cleveland, Game 5 tomorrow. You got the Rip City Drive. Well, it's always a pleasure to talk basketball with my good friend Dave Deckhard. He's the man behind BlazersEdge.com, and he joins us right now. Hey, Dave, we saw with the Lakers last night getting swept out by the Oklahoma City Thunder. It reminded me of the Trailblazers series with the Spurs. How much value do you think there is in playing a superior opponent and just having a good understanding of what you are after you go under the microscope?
Well, I think it's different for the Blazers and the Lakers. The Lakers are a much more developed team. They have a lot more star power. When you have LeBron James on your team, you have a lot of known factors. Their problems were a little bit roster construction, but a lot injuries. I think they have to figure out what to do with Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic. That might not be a viable championship backcourt. They're going to have to resolve that this year because Reeves has contract things coming up. And I think from that standpoint, I mean, there wasn't much doubt going in that Oklahoma City was better. The Lakers need to do something. They already knew that. For the Blazers, I think the Spurs were a decent litmus test. I think we're seeing now that the Spurs aren't invulnerable. They are similarly young. Yes, they have a transcendent talent in Victor Wembanyama, but there are ways around that. The Blazers couldn't get around that, and the Spurs were decidedly better. Their young players are decidedly better. There are reasons for that. Obviously, they got higher draft picks than the Blazers did, but I think it does send Portland back to the drawing board in a way that the Lakers don't have to do. The Blazers have to add some major talent before they're able to stand up to some of the Western Conference contenders. And I think that the postseason may have been a reality check for that. I know they were hoping for a little more success, but, you know, it didn't come, and that's reality. They don't have a draft pick this year. That's also reality. So they're going to have to pull some rabbits out of hats in order to figure out how to make that next step.
Yeah, no question. And it's not just San Antonio and Oklahoma City, but the West as a whole. It's a very deep, athletic, and competitive conference. It's tough out there.
Well, I mean, Utah's going to get an ultra-high draft pick, right? San Antonio and Oklahoma City actually have more draft picks coming than the Blazers do, right? So you're not going to be able to just sit on your laurels and, you know, incrementally improve your way to the conference elite. Those spaces are already taken, and the teams in them are young, not going anywhere, and capable of restocking. So what do you do exactly? I think you need to make some bold moves at some point. Doesn't have to be this summer, but the Blazers can't go, 4 or 5 years from now, we're automatically going to be better than teams. They're simply not.
We're talking to Dave Deckhard, BlazersEdge.com. So here's the big question I have for you, Dave. When you're the Trailblazers and you've got some good young pieces, you've also got some draft picks and some assets to work with, veteran contracts. How do you know when it's the right time to go big game hunting and make a big move? What's the formula to understand when the timing is right?
Well, the first question is one available? You can't fake a big move. You can make a big move for you. You can spend all your assets, the NBA will let you, on something that improves you somewhat, and you say, this is our move. It doesn't mean it's the right one. It doesn't mean that's a transformational player. First, you have to ask, is that player available? And if that player is available, yeah, it's now the right time to try and go and get them. The other question, of course, is fit. You have to ask, like Giannis, obviously, is the big name out there right now. And he's a fantastic talent. No question, he would improve the Blazers. He would vault them into the discussion in the West. But he's 31. He's been more injured. His game is predicated on his athleticism. And so you start to ask, also the other thing is he's got a single year left on his contract until he can opt out. You have to start to ask a lot of questions about that. Yeah, is that a huge move? It sure is. Is that huge move a fit with your franchise right now? And are you going to be able to prosper from it? That's a completely different issue. So you have to be careful not to fool yourself about these things and say, well, I did something that looks like a big swing, but actually it's my only big swing. It's not going to work out, and now I lost all my assets for what ends up being not an effective trade.
You bring up the exact concern that I have. I love Giannis. I think he's a phenomenal talent, but his game is based on athleticism, and at age 31, you have to wonder how many more elite years he's got left. I'm not sure if I'd want to sacrifice massive assets to be able to bring someone in that may only be able to help you for a couple of elite years.
Well, the big thing is, can you get a couple? Again, he can opt out after next year. The only thing that you have guaranteed is next season. Unless that changes, I don't think you can make that your big and only swing. Because if the player can say, I want to go play in LA or something, or play for someone who's closer to a championship, you've just spent all your assets and now you have nothing, right?
Yes.
If he would either guarantee he's going to opt in or the Blazers can renegotiate with him, whatever it takes. If he's here for 3 or 4 years, I think you do consider doing that because you're never going to get a more top-level talent. It may require you to rebuild the rest of your roster because what you need around Giannis, and assuming you didn't trade Denny to get him, you need shooters around those guys. You don't have any. So now you begin a major retooling, but the Blazers can do that, and it's worth it if he's staying for the next 3 or 4 seasons. If he's not, then again, all that work is for 1 year, one shot. You probably can't get it done in that time frame anyway, and by the time you do get it done, there's a good chance he's going to be gone. You cannot make that move.
That's a very good point. So let's say the Blazers don't go big game hunting. There's no big name available, or they decide that Giannis is not the right play, and they decide to stand pat. Are they going to need, because you've got Dame coming back, you've got Drew Holiday, you've got Shaden, and you got Scoot. Are they going to need to consolidate their guard rotation on some level so they can have enough minutes to get, the guys on the floor who need to develop, and of course the vets that want to play?
Yeah, of course. You need to sort that out, especially if you're going to go with Scoot long term, because Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard are right in his runway. I mean, Scoot, if you keep him, you believe he's ready to take off over the next couple years. Unless he can get the space to get off the ground, that's not going to happen. So I think at least one of those guards need to go. Obviously, it's not going to be Dame. He has a no-trade contract, for gosh sake. So it's going to be Drew. Now, I think the Blazers would rue losing Drew. They go backwards right now, at least a little bit. But if you're going to bank on Scoot, then that's probably what you have to do. But if you don't believe Scoot is the guy, then you need to move on, and it's better to move on sooner than later. That may not mean trading Scoot right now. Same thing with Shaden Sharp, by the way. You may not have to move them right at this instant, but you start building as if they are not the answer. You start building around your other players. You start scheming to make that next move, and you figure at some point we're going to move these guys. This is starting to become a really viable discussion for another reason, too. It is a different NBA than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the people who are winning championships are 28, 29, 30 years old.
Yep.
That's the mature part of your prime, and you're going, well, that's what we're shooting for. Look at who's winning championships today. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, all those people, right? They are 24, 25, 26. The Trailblazers' young players are starting to enter into that zone. I'm not saying they have to win a title right now, but if you are looking at an immeasurable distance between Shaden Sharp and Scoot Henderson and an NBA championship, and you can't figure out how to get from point A to point B, age is no longer a justification for that because other players of that age are doing that. At that point, you go, you know what? We've got young guys, but they might not be the right guys. We need to reset somehow.
Boy, that's great thoughts. We're talking to Dave Deckhard. Have you seen enough? Do you have enough data for yourself to know long-term what Scoot and Shaden are going to be, or do you need to see more?
I don't, and it's kind of a concern because you would hope you had more. I think Scoot gets a little bit of a pass because of the injuries, because by all accounts, he has a real great work ethic. And I was talking to someone who's kind of a friend, kind of an expert on these things the other day, and he said the one thing that I love about Scoot is that he has shown improvement, that you can literally track it. And when a player shows improvement, that usually keeps going. And so I have a little bit more leeway with him at this point because he's gone up the ramp and picked up speed. Shaden Sharp, I think, has also improved, but a 20-point scorer is not the same value that it used to be because you can find more of them, especially at the guard position. I still don't know exactly what Shaedon does at a super excellent level all the time, and I'm not looking at him as a person where I'm going, wow, he's ready to take off at the next level. I think he is at a higher level, and he started to peak, and that kind of concerns me. So I think of the two, I'm more worried about Shaedon right now. Doesn't mean he can't improve next season. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. But if I was looking at one of them as expendable or one of them I'm more concerned about, I think at this point it's more Shaedon Sharpe than Scoot Henderson.
Okay. Dave Deckhard is with us. I wanted to ask you about the playoffs. Of the things that you've seen thus far, what's been the most intriguing thing to you with the series that have played out?
I think there are a couple things. I mean, obviously what New York has done with Cat, right? Karl Anthony Towns, who for most of the season was considered the redheaded stepchild of that roster.
Yes.
Because they built it to be athletic, long, defensive-oriented. Cat's long, but he's offensive-oriented, not a great defender, but he's a superlative talent. And it was kind of like having a real great tiramisu at some kind of Chinese buffet. Like, it doesn't work. They're both great. They don't work together, right? Finally, in the playoffs, though, New York's gone, we know how to leverage this dessert, all right? We're going to run the ball through him. He's a matchup problem that nobody can solve. And by the way, my athletic defensive players that I also thought might kind of be number one options, they're only sort of number one options. Cat is a bona fide one. So we're going to let him be the key option in the offense and make these defensive-oriented athletic guys play off of him where they're really better. And all of a sudden, watch, it clicked. Now, part of that is because the opponent wasn't great. But part of that is them rediscovering how good Cat is. I'm actually kind of jealous of that because had this kept on going, had Cat been misused and underperformed, I thought there was a non-zero chance that he might be available on the trade market, and he's one of the players that the Blazers would look pretty nice with. I'm not sure that that will hold up if they keep on going farther. The other one, quickly, is San Antonio and their youth, and they have overwhelming talent, but they're really mercurial. You know, they're up and down. And I think that they were vulnerable. They were vulnerable a little bit to the Blazers. I think the Timberwolves found a few weaknesses in their mental approach. And you got to remember, this team is super young, and it's like rolling the dice. And watching those dice tumble is really interesting. I kind of hope that they don't go all the way, because I think they're a little bit overrated right now, but watching them try is certainly interesting.
Yeah, no question about it. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll see how things shake out. You're right about the Knicks. Like, it's pretty amazing with the way that they've adjusted the usage and how they're utilizing Cat. I mean, they've changed. They underachieved throughout the regular season based on what we thought they were going to be going into the year, and now they're on fire. I mean, the turnaround's been significant midway through the Atlanta series.
Karl Anthony Towns himself, look, he's been through a few seasons. He's done this before. He's had teams lean on him, and he's not the type of guy to, like, step up and say, ride my back all the time. He's going to, how to say this politely, he's going to put in the work when he thinks it matters, yes. All right? And obviously it matters right now. It may be that New York wanted to do this earlier and Cat just wasn't stepping up, but now that he is and he is shining, you remember exactly who he is.
What are the big topics that Blazer fans are following at BlazersEdge.com right now? Because they have no draft picks, so the draft's not the big deal. Are they focused on big game hunting? Is it Tom Dundon? Like, what's getting the most attention?
Yeah, I mean, with the Dundon thing, it's interesting. There was that whole royal upset about cutting team funds and doing stuff like that, and whether he's going to cheap out. The way that'll be proven, I think, is what kind of coach he hires. Do you like the coach? Does the coach have any kind of track record? What are you paying the coach? I think all of those will weigh in. And I think that's the next big decision that people are concerned about. Buying their way into the draft again might be an open issue, and or trading their way into the draft. But after that, the big thing, I think the thing on everybody's mind, is what happens during that trade and free agency season when it opens in July. Are the Blazers going to be active and aggressive? How high into the salary cap and or luxury tax are they willing to go? I don't think anyone wants them to be a second apron team at this point. That would be stupid. But if a move comes up that increases their salary and it's for a big name player, are they willing to do that? Or are they just going to try to write it out on the cheap, get by on less expensive contracts and say we're good where we're at? Those are two very different approaches, and I think they'll be received very differently.
All right. He is the man behind BlazersEdge.com. Check it out. It's Dave Deckhard here on the Rip City Drive. Well, Dave, thank you for your time. I love talking ball with you, buddy. I hope you enjoy your evening and have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Let's see what happens in the early part of the summer. Remember, trades can be made before the draft, so it might be an open issue. Let's watch what the Blazers do.
You got it. There's Dave Deckhard. Love him so much. Enjoyed that conversation. Right now, Western Conference semifinals. Spurs on top 28-19 in the first quarter with 3 minutes to go. And Victor Wembanyama is on fire right now. Absolute fire. 16 points, 6 of 8 shooting, 2 of 3 from downtown, 5 rebounds and assist, and just all over the place. And he's now getting a little breather here in the first quarter. Three-pointer just hit by the Timberwolves. It's 28-22. So we could be in store for a great game. But, man, Victor Wembanyama, he ain't messing around tonight. Got ejected in Game 4. His team lost the game, and now he's come out like barn burners tonight. So 6-point game, 2:51 to go first quarter down in San Antonio. Obviously, the game is huge because if Minnesota were to sneak away with the win, they'd go back to Minnesota with a chance to close out San Antonio in a couple of nights. So we'll see how this game continues to play out. The Spurs entered the game as 10-point favorites, but Victor Wembanyama, 16 points first quarter, and just a dominant performance thus far. Yikes. 6 minutes, 16 points, 5 boards, and an assist. That's pretty good. Pretty good. And so the Spurs right now shooting it at 61%, and Minnesota 57%. And they're getting multiple guys to make contributions. 5 points from Mike Conley, who's 2 of 2 from the floor. They got 6 from Ant, and all 5 of their starters have scored. Randall, McDaniels, Gobert, and Dosunmu each have a bucket and have 2 points apiece. So good balance for the Timberwolves. Love this series. Love the energy, the physicality, everything about it. I like watching these two teams battle. But big thanks to Dave Deckhard. It is going to be fascinating to watch and see how things play out with the Trailblazers this offseason. So like Dave said, keep an eye on what they do at coach and who they end up hiring. And keep an eye on what their plan is come offseason time. How aggressive will they be? Will they be willing to spend? Will they just be looking to get by on the cheap? You know, we're going to find out a lot over the next couple of months. So what is it, May now? So we got the draft coming up next month. Yeah, really the next 2 months. And then free agency kicks off, I think, on June 30th as we kick into July. It's usually right around the same time every year. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Alex Brink, big thanks to him. Big thanks to Dave Deckhard. And that's all that's going on. NHL playoffs, Montreal with a 2-1 lead on Buffalo in the second. Anaheim and Vegas coming up later on at 6:30. And we've got the NBA playoffs. The Mariners were able to stop the bleeding after melting down on Sunday. They got a win yesterday in Houston over the Astros 3-1. And right now, they've got a 2-0 lead midway through the second in Houston. So the Mariners on the struggle bus a bit with their offense. Had a meltdown on Sunday, but on their way possibly to back-to-back wins in Houston, which would be big for them. Yeah, Wemby. I still think, and we saw glimpses here in the first quarter tonight, just imagine Wembanyama at his size. I mean, we know what he does defensively. He's already the best defensive player in the NBA. But imagine Wemby once he gets the comfort level on offense where he's got go-to moves and things that he can lean on, like any of the greats do their go-to moves. Kareem had the sky hook. MJ had the fadeaway. Wait till he develops one of those type of moves to where he's got a higher level of comfort on the offensive end. And he's out there operating with purpose. That's going to be scary. All right, we'll keep things rolling here. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, Spurs with a 34-30 lead on the Timberwolves with 18 seconds to go in the first quarter. Spurs will hold for the final shot, and then we'll move on to the second. Only one game tonight in the NBA with a Game 5 Detroit and Cleveland tomorrow from the Motor City. That game will be 5 on ESPN. And this has been a very, very entertaining first quarter of play. Higher scoring than what I would have thought going in. All right, so my man Brendan is back this week after a trip to Mexico. How hard was it for you to adjust to getting back into regular life after a great time down in Mexico?
Chad, I love you. I'm still feeling it now. Like, I got back, Thursday? And feel like the time change is still getting me a little bit. Just the routine. Like, for instance, I put on my flip-flops today when I left the house instead of tennis shoes. And I never do that. But force a habit for what you did for a week in Mexico. So, some little things like that. But, yeah, it's a lot to get back into a rhythm.
No question about it. Especially after a great trip with great weather. Fortunately, the weather here over the last week or so has been pretty nice.
I didn't leave like bad weather, but the good news with that, Chad, is nice thing about taking a vacation in May, especially here in Oregon. You usually, when you get back, you're starting to get close into summer. So, like, for instance, this weekend, minus the humidity, which, again, is just off the charts down there, folks. The temperature when I came back, I believe it was like 85 on Sunday, or maybe that was Monday, but that was pretty close to what I had down there. So take away the humidity, and it's just like being there, Chad.
I think it was Mitch. Mitch in New Jersey brought up the point that he hates the idea of the college football playoff expanding to 24 teams. I'm on board with it. I actually think it's a good idea. And my reasoning is pretty simple. For one, I think the people who are most vocal about not wanting a 24-team playoff are the same people that tried to convince us that the old system of doing things was a good idea. And until those people are completely out of the game, they've died and gone off, they're going to continue to push their narrative. So the more I hear people bark about it, the more I think it's a good idea. But what I think it will do if they do eventually expand it out to 24 teams, like the coaches they got their own interest in mind, right? And with more playoff spots available, that creates more job security because if you make the playoff, you can make a pretty strong case that you deserve to keep your gig. But if you have high expectations, you miss the playoff with less spots available, you can lose your job. So the coaches have their own reasons for wanting a 24-team field. But what I think it will do is I don't think it's going to – I really don't believe it would cheapen the regular season. I think what's going to happen is if they expand it out to 24 teams, it's going to do what we've seen happen with the 12-team format. I think it's going to make things better because you'll have more teams, more fan bases across the country that will have potential access to the playoff. Teams that normally would never have a chance because it's always going to be the teams at the top, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, the usual suspects, right? But now if you expand it out to 24, you have more spots available, which means more teams from a variety of different conferences have access. And I think what that will do is keep the regular season important because teams are going to be playing in big games that are important with their playoff lives on the line. And what I like is that it would open it up to teams that would never normally not have a chance to have an opportunity at something like that. So I'm here for it. I want that type of situation. I want teams to have access to the playoff. I want that to be, something to watch and cheer for. So I think it would work. I don't think it would cheapen the regular season. I think it would enhance it because it would create bigger games across the country throughout the season because you'd have more teams that have access to the playoff that are playing for something important. So that's my take on that. Mitch had brought that up, but I wouldn't mind seeing it. Second quarter is now underway in San Antonio. Minnesota looking to take a 3-2 series lead going back home. And then you've got the Spurs, who, of course, are trying to hold serve on the home court. And, they recaptured home court. They dropped game one, won game two in blowout fashion. They won game three, lost game four. So they're trying to hold serve so they can, continue to keep home court advantage as they move forward. Both teams shooting the ball really well right now. Victor Wembanyama had a monster first quarter. He was dominant. And, he came out with purpose and energy. like a guy who was trying to redeem himself for getting ejected in game number 4. And I really think that based on how that game was going, if he had not gotten ejected, they probably win that game. But I still can't believe it. When I watch him play, I've only seen him live once, and that was the game 4 in Portland. But seeing him live and now watching him, like I still can't believe that the guy can move the way he moves at that size. To have agility, to have balance, to be comfortable handling the basketball, to be able to pull up from anywhere on the floor and shoot from 3. And then you look at his defensive capabilities. He's just lurking, looking to block shots. And guys know that. Like, it's hard to go at him because he's going to block your shot. And I'm telling you one night, if you want just to have a little fun, little side thing to watch during the course of a game, pay attention to how many shots he changes that are not blocks. So they're not going to go down on the stat sheet as a block, but it's a shot that might have been a make had he not been there. And we've already seen that tonight. You know, you think you got something going, and all of a sudden he extends himself out, and you're like, uh-oh, we're in trouble. And the Spurs right now on a mini run to open up the quarter and looking to take advantage of their opportunity. And they now have a double-digit lead and an and-one opportunity at 42-30. So they take Wemby off the floor. Minnesota goes on a run to close the gap, and they put him back on the floor, and instantly San Antonio now taking advantage of the opportunity. It's pretty crazy. Well, Wemby is, like I said, there aren't too many times where you see something where you're like, I haven't seen that before, but I've never seen Wemby. Like when Shaq came in the league, it was pretty amazing because we had never seen that. I mean, Shaq was just big, powerful, and a guy that could run up and down the floor at that size. And he would break basketball hoops in the NBA. We hadn't seen that before with that type of size and strength. Like when Kobe came along, we had seen that before because we had MJ. But then when you see a guy like Wemby, I would say it was Shaq and then this. There just aren't too many times where you see that. Anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else like that. To a lesser degree, maybe someone like AI, a small guard that could dominate the game and be tough at his size. Like Nasri just drove into the paint, put on a good move, and then Wemby, because of his incredible length, was able to recover and block the shot. And now he tried to get a little Harlem Globetrotterish with a behind-the-back pass that went out of bounds. So far, it looks like the officials aren't going too ticky-tacky, which is nice. 10-point game. All right, we're going to come back, and I'm going to be joined by the two guys who are on the Hops tonight. They're getting ready to take on Spokane, and I'll have a conversation and catch up on the Hops as they get ready to take on Spokane in their brand-new ballpark. All right, so keep it locked in. You got an extra bonus Chad time of about 15 minutes coming up in just a couple of moments. All right, very happy to welcome to the show two gentlemen that you hear on a regular basis calling the Hops games, Matt Rickard and Seth Hoyland, who are with us right now. Guys, what's going on?
Hey, Chad, how are you? Thanks for having us.
Oh,
Howdy, Chad.
What's up? What's up? It's nice to talk to you guys. So has it sunk in yet as you continue to work from the new ballpark, or is it still brand new every time you walk in?
Well, funny you should ask.
Yeah, right. I know. It's kind of a dream, showing up here to work every single day, obviously, at the old ballpark, quote-unquote old ballpark, Ron Tonkin Field, Hillsborough Ballpark just across the street. Being able to, show up to work every day, see this facility truly being built from the ground up, and now, we're talking to you, the window's open, the sun's out, we're getting ready for a baseball game here in a beautiful ballpark. And it was really cool today. A lot of the Diamondbacks kind of roving instructors who go around to the different minor league affiliates are here for the first time this week, and got to show them around the ballpark before the game. And just, these are guys who have played in the majors. They've been to a lot of the major league stadiums throughout the U.S., and they were even in awe of this place. So I think just every time we see a new reaction and somebody gets to see the ballpark for the first time, it kind of hits home again, but very special.
That's great. That's awesome. I still can't believe how beautiful it is, and I'm so happy that both of you get a chance to, call games from there and just be a part of the atmosphere, which is awesome. I've been telling everyone I know, I said, if you haven't been, you got to go and check it out. But what about the Hops right now? What's going on with the Hops, and how are they looking early in the season?
Well, Seth, I don't know. They were looking pretty good when I left them in Everett and turned it over to you. I'm not sure what happened last week.
Yeah. We just had a 2-week road trip. Matt had the first part of it in Vancouver. We won 4 of 6 games. And then lost the first 5 in Everett before winning the series finale, avoiding the sweep there. But, I think you can obviously look at the pitching. Our pitching has struggled this year. The lineup starting to come around. There's a couple key pieces that have started to hit the ball really well. A really young and emerging catcher. We have Alberto Barriga, has an 11-game hit streak right now. He hit 4 home runs over the road trip, and our top hitting prospect, Slade Caldwell, 4 for his last 5 at the plate after really struggling leading up to that. So I think things are starting to trend the right direction over the last couple games. But Matt, I don't know what you saw in Vancouver that clicked, but I didn't see much of it in Everett.
Well, of course, still haunted 2 years ago by going 1-11 up in Vancouver and basically getting knocked out of the playoffs in each half of the season with big flops on the road at that state. Traditionally, that is the toughest place to play on this circuit for many reasons. They get a big crowd, they're rowdy and loud, and often teams have to leave players behind because they don't have the appropriate paperwork to get across the border. That got even tougher during the COVID years when they were really cracking down. We couldn't use that as an excuse this year. This is the first time in my memory that the Hops didn't have to leave anybody behind on that road trip to Vancouver. And they did win the first 3 games of the series, dropped the next 2, and were able to pull out the Sunday game to get the series win. And then they just ran into a hot Everett team. You got a couple of the Mariners' top prospects at Everett right now that really shined last week. Feldine Celestin, who I think they gave more bonus money to him than any international player in their history. And he's on an absolute tear right now. What is it, 17-game hit streak right now, hitting over 500?
Yeah, he won back-to-back Northwest League Player of the Week honors, and that Everett team is really loaded. Also got to see Seattle Mariners pitcher Bryce Miller last week, so he threw 5 shutout innings against us. I think he's rejoining the Mariners rotation this week, but that was cool to see a big leaguer pitch against us.
And with Cal Raleigh's current struggles, you look at a guy like Luke Stevenson with maybe a future in the organization, really talented catcher out of North Carolina. He had a big series as well.
Yep.
One thing I love about both of you guys is you're pretty good storytellers throughout the course of the game. And so I'm wondering, as you pour through your prep to get ready for a game, how do you determine, what you want to touch on? Are there certain things where you're absolutely going to get it in? And do you have stuff on the side in case you need more stories if the game slows down? What's your process for that?
This would be a good time for Rich Burke to be here because he and I have completely different approaches to how we do things. Rich will definitely have more stuff prepared. He's more the storyteller, the anecdote guy. I'm a fly-by-the-seat of my pants guy, kind of let the game dictate where I'm going to go. So I don't really go into any game with a plan that, first inning I'm going to talk about this and that. We're going to talk about this guy. We're going to have this story. No, I don't do that. It's just, I prepare like a demon. I've got reams and reams of notes but I don't know where it's going to go until the first pitch is thrown.
Well, and yeah, you look at the game last Sunday, obviously going into every game, you never know what could happen, and Saturday was one of those games for me. We were down 15-1 after the fourth inning, and it's a solo broadcast. You still got 6 innings left, and things just weren't going our way, so trying to find a way to at least hopefully still keep people engaged, still tell stories, and the hardest thing, at least for me, is calling the blowout games, but it's also very important because it happens. And I've seen a lot of those games doing George Fox women's basketball. You know, the women's basketball team there has been good for many, many years. So I've seen a lot of blowout games. Luckily, I've got some practice calling, 40, 50-point blowouts. But I think most broadcasters would tell you that's the hardest, but also one of the most important things to be able to do.
That was the nice thing about working at KUIK all those years. We got to handpick the games, the schedules, so you didn't really have a lot of those blowout games where you had to fill time. You could pick the best matchups week in and week out. But when you're covering a team, and, we were so fortunate during the short season days, the Hops' first 6 years, where they were a perennial playoff contender, 3 championships, and their winning percentage was well beyond what was statistically predictable for that team. And I think we're kind of catching the butt end of that now, that we've gotten to full season with the playoff drought. It's just reverting to the mean. But, things will turn around in due time. There's a couple of very talented position player prospects down in low A right now that we're likely to see before the season is out. Starting pitching is a real strength on this Hops team. Bullpen, not so much. And that really, in the split season format, that really puts you at a disadvantage in the first half of the season. The team that's got the strongest bullpen is going to have an advantage because the starting pitchers at the first few weeks of the season, they're only going 2 or 3 innings.
We're talking with Matt Rickard and Seth Hoyland of the Hops as they get ready for their game coming up here on Rip City Radio 620 against Spokane. What is the normal wall for these young players that come in? Because, it's a long, long season. So when do the young guys start to notice that wall and that process of learning how to break through physically?
Well, there's a couple parts to it coming out of spring training. At the beginning of the season, all the players in the minor league organization all go to Arizona. They all practice together. That's when they figure out if they're going to low A, if they're going to high A, if they're going to double A. A lot of it has to do with, if a guy is a tenured college player, if you're a 22-year-old college player who, just pitched a full season in college, you're probably going to have a longer leash than maybe an 18 or 19-year-old kid who's, just coming over from, the Dominican Republic or Venezuela or something like that. So there's definitely a formula that goes into it. Once we get to the middle part of the season, guys will start to have, 70, 80, 90 pitch count. But usually at the beginning of the year, it seems to be kind of the older college arms who have the longest leash as far as pitching goes. Hitting, really the top prospects, they get a day off a week. So Slade Caldwell, he's the top position player prospect on this team. He's still just 19 years old. Not as worried about workload for a hitting defensive outfielder, but he has to have a day off every week. So he'll at least, he will never play 6 games in a series. He'll always have 1 day off in there. But the way that they train, the way that they have recovery, the technology, the tools that they have, even at our level, significantly more advanced even than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and part of the limitation was Slade. He had some back issues last year, and as a first-round draft pick out of high school, they're going to exercise the utmost caution with this asset. Likewise, tonight's starting pitcher, David Hageman, still not that far removed from elbow surgery, so he's been on a really tight pitch count, but he's been pretty impressive from what we've seen so far this year. His command has wavered a bit the last couple of outings. But, again, I don't think you're really going to see the strength of this team until those starting pitchers start to extend and routinely pitch into the 5th and 6th innings, because that's really a strong suit on this team is the starting staff. We've really got 9 or 10 starting pitchers on this rotation, so that's a challenge as well for the new pitching coach, Blake Nation, and how to utilize all these guys. They've been changing the rotation week to week. Some guys pitching in piggyback scenarios and with bulk relief innings. 1 week they'll be in the starting rotation the next week. So it's very much a work in progress.
Another broadcasting question I have for you guys: when you're doing a game, how do you know? Because you guys are able to see, slider, off-speed, fastball. How do you know what the pitch is by just watching it from behind the plate from the broadcast position?
You watch a lot of pitches. New this year, we have the technology to be able to see all the TrackMan data. We'd never had that before, so now we can see every pitch, all of the data. It tells you what the pitch is. It tells you if it was a strike. It tells you how fast it was. It shows you the spin rate. And then it also shows all the data for the hitter. It shows if the ball was hit off the barrel. It shows how fast the ball was hit off the bat. It shows how far it was hit. So you have all of this advanced data that now has reached our level. They had the data before that the teams would use to analyze the players. It just wasn't readily available to us as broadcasters live in the moment. So if people who are listening have been able to listen to a game this year, you probably heard a lot more pitch speed data, ball off the bat data. We love to use that information. You can tell if a ball was hit hard, but being able to say, that ball was hit 110 miles an hour off the bat, which is in the top 99th percentile of MLB players, then that's, a fact that actually means something. Most people don't care about spin rate or care about, some of the advanced metrics, but kind of using the pieces that can actually mean something and kind of, share the game in a different way.
And that's all part of the emergence of artificial intelligence as well. We hear primarily the horror stories and the nightmare scenarios when it comes to AI, but there are many, many benefits as well, particularly for broadcasters like us, not only in streamlining the preparation that goes into getting ready for a game, but as Seth mentioned, the technology is at a point now where we're getting that real-time data instantaneously right after the pitch is thrown. It tells you exactly what kind of pitch it was and the location of it.
That's pretty terrific. Now, the technology, do pitchers, are they utilizing that information at all, or, to help them with their game? Like, it would seem like if you were so focused on the spin rate and some of the numbers, it would drive you crazy, I would think.
Yeah, there's definitely a fine line. So we have somebody on our staff who's the video coordinator, and basically there's different independent cameras that are set up throughout the ballpark that he clips every single pitch of every single game for both hitters and batters. And then after the games, they're all uploaded to this system that's used internally, and the pitchers can see every pitch they throw, what it looks like. It tells them what the pitch was, where it was, if it was a strike, what part of the zone. So they get all of this information after the game. A lot of the data is used for the Diamondback staff back home to be able to analyze the players. Whether a guy, maybe he lost some velocity from a start and maybe it's concerned for an elbow injury, or, maybe one of the players isn't running as fast out of the box. They have all of that data that doesn't show in the box score. And so a lot of times it's used by the scouts, it's used by the player performance individuals, it's used by the general managers for the Diamondbacks, and they use that data to help, make player moves, make trades, advance guys to next levels. And there's sometimes where they'll mark a ball under a certain category. It might have been an out, but hey, it was hit off the barrel at 110 miles an hour, and that's what they're looking for. So long story short, the players and the staff both use it. Everybody uses it to a different extent, but Chad, I think you're right. I overheard a conversation one of my first years here, 2022, where the guys were talking about, if they go back and look at the box scores and look at their old at-bats. And it was about 50-50 guys who would love to go back and look at every piece of it, love to look at the stats, and some of them don't. Some of them don't want to see if they're batting under 200. They don't want to know, how many ground outs they've had and things like that. And it's all part of a superstition. Some of the guys are very superstitious. Some of them aren't. So it's definitely mixed, but the data is definitely there, and it's readily available for everybody.
That's pretty awesome. Matt Rickert and Seth Hoyland getting ready for the Hops and Spokane coming up here on Rip City Radio 620. So truly, some of the young pitchers, they're going out there, and they're still, learning about their stuff, right? So they're out there experimenting, trying to get their stuff down.
Yep, that's true. You'll see guys that come into this level with power stuff, but maybe have not mastered the secondary pitches. That's what we've seen a lot of from the Hops relievers these last couple of years. Guys who can rush it up there, 99, triple digits, but maybe not with the command you need to have to advance to the higher levels of the minor leagues or the majors, and haven't yet mastered the secondary pitches. In order to be a starting pitcher, you really need to master at least 3 pitches, a fastball and then a breaking pitch you can get right-handers out with, and a breaking pitch or an off-speed pitch that you can get lefties out with. So at this level with pitching, it's usually mastering those secondary pitches and bolstering the arsenal to be able to advance.
All right. Hey, guys, enjoy the call. I appreciate the time. I love the chat, and I hope you guys enjoy the game tonight.
Chad, always a pleasure to be on with you. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
You got it. There's Seth Hoyland, Matt Rickert here on the Rip City Drive. And coming up next, we got Hillsboro Hops baseball here in your home of the Hops. They're going to be taking on Spokane. Matt Rickert, Seth Hoyland on the call. So you guys enjoyed. A big thanks to our guests today, Dave Deckhard and Alex Brink. Big thanks to Brendan Slaughter for engineering the program. Have a good night, my friends. I'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 here on Rip City Drive.
This is headed for the right field corner off the bat of Perdomo. This will get Corbin Carroll home. Back-to-back doubles for the Diamondbacks, and they strike first here in Texas.
That's just what we were hoping for. A pair of doubles. Perdomo striking this ball down the right field line. Stayed back well on a changeup. And any kind of hit's going to score Carroll, but Perdomo to get that extra base hit is exactly what we're waiting for.
Berger lines it to center. Waldy's got it! Ryan Waldschmidt with a diving catch in left center. That's 11 consecutive retired by Michael Soroka. And a big catch by the youngster in a 1-0 ball game. Go get it! 0-2 on Josh Young. Right center, Barossa calls off Corbin Carroll. Paul Sewald still perfect in the save.
That was Monday. The Arizona Diamondbacks in a 1-0 win over the Texas Rangers. Two former Hops combining to score that one run in the first inning yesterday for the parent club D-backs. Back-to-back doubles by Corbin Carroll and Geraldo Perdomo. Ryan Waldschmidt, less than a week into his major league career, a recent call-up by the D-backs and a standout at this level with the Hillsboro Hops last year with a fine diving catch at center field, and then former Hop outfielder Jorge Barossa making the catch for the final out in yesterday's 1-0 shutout victory. Over 70 former Hops now have played Major League Baseball, and the Arizona Diamondbacks roster is littered with them. Hops are back in their brand new ballpark tonight for the first of 6 games against the Spokane Indians, the Colorado Rockies Northwest League affiliate, a team they have already beaten 4 games out of 6 in a home series just a few weeks